What football ground are you thinking of when someone says this?
Really tough place to go. Difficult place to go. Such a tough place to go.
It's a tough place to go at the moment.
It was a really difficult place to go, always.
But what are the toughest places to go, really? We've scoured the planet to find out. Forget a cold, wet Tuesday night in Stoke. Try playing in a blizzard 220 miles inside the Arctic Circle at the world's northernmost professional club. When Chelsea lost at Tromsø in Norway in the 97-98 Cup Winners' Cup, a massive snowstorm hit at half-time. These two boys and their brooms were absolutely no match for it. We're staying in Scandinavia for Scotland's toughest away day on a windswept cliff in the Faroe Islands. In Euro 2000 qualifying, Craig Brown's men were taken to fishing village Toftir. Kevin Gallagher called the pitch a cowfield and the wind like Pittodrie on a bad day. The Faroe Islands part-timers equalised in stoppage time, leading to these absolute scenes, and still one of Scotland's most embarrassing results.
Daft little ground, silly game.
But away trips don't come any tougher than a lung-busting schlep up the Andes to face Bolivia in La Paz. But now the Bolivians have taken home advantage to another level. The country's highest city, El Alto, 4,100 metres above sea level. Grass doesn't even grow up here. Bolivia have not lost here yet. The longest unbeaten run in any professional league ever belongs to Red Star Belgrade, or Crvena Zvezda if you must. They've gone 7 years without defeat at the Rajko Mitic in Serbia's Superliga. Their fans are pretty intimidating as well, but they're not as loud as this mob. Galatasaray's Ali Sami Yen Stadium's officially the loudest in world football. In a derby with Fenerbahce, Galatasaray fans set a Guinness World Record of 131 decibels. That's louder than Motorhead, and pretty tough to carry out your manager's instructions when you can't even hear them. However, our most intimidating away day is in Wales, where cameras can't enter and players can't leave. HMP Prescoed. This prison team was briefly kicked out the Gwent League over concerns about young opposition having to go in there. Now that's a tough place to go.
Early June 1939, Germany, always a tough place to go to.
Hello, very good morning to you. You're listening to talkSPORT. It's Sam Matterface, Alex Crook and the former Republic of Ireland and Nottingham Forest manager Martin O'Neill were live on talkSPORT this morning. So Crystal Palace and Nottingham Forest played out a feisty Premier League draw at Selhurst Park yesterday amid a backdrop of fan needle and managerial uncertainty. Has Nuno Espirito Santo poked the Marinakis bare? Could he have managed his last game? Meanwhile, Manchester United have spent more than £200 million on 3 new attackers during the summer, and their only goal so far this season was a Muniz own goal. Are they veering towards yet another crisis just 2 games in? Also today, are we comfortable with a schoolboy playing in the Premier League? Are Tottenham true title challengers? And Russell Martin makes it 26 years of Rangers history, and not in a good way. You're listening to Matterface, Crook and Martin O'Neill, and we're live on talkSPORT.
100% engagement. Jim White and Simon Jordan on talkSPORT.
And Martin O'Neill couldn't think of a better way to spend his bank holiday than with us in the studio here as it's baking outside. You all right, Martin?
Ever since I knew that you'd be on, Sam, I was so looking forward to it.
Lovely to see you.
Yeah.
I hope you had a good summer, by the way.
It was fine, thank you.
Good. And Crookie's here as well.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good. Fresh from Fulham, Manchester United yesterday. You recovered yet?
Yeah, I went home for about 2 hours last night, went to bed, got up, back here with you again. So, yeah, have I recovered? Second half was poor, wasn't it, from a United perspective, but I'm sure we'll get into that.
Yes, we certainly will. We'll start, though, with Manchester, with Nottingham Forest and Nuno Espirito Santo, because we just wonder whether or not he has made a mistake in poking the Marinakis bear. Martin O'Neill, you worked in that environment. Start off by telling me what it's like to work for Marinakis and for Nottingham Forest at this moment.
Well, I worked for about 4 months. I came in January of 2019 and lasted 19 games. So, yeah, and strangely enough, ironically enough, I had a really decent week with him in Athens at the end of the season, that particular season, and looking forward to the next season. I came back. I did 1 week of pre-season with the team and was shown the door. Fine. Listen, it can be pretty volatile. There's no question about it. And yeah, I didn't have that many dealings face to face with him. It was all done through the chief executive and the director of football as much as anything else. But the messages would have been coming straight from him, and the message wasn't great, obviously.
So you had a relationship with him. You were in Athens with him. Everything was going well. You went away for your summer holiday, came back to pre-season. What happened in the interim period, which meant that the relationship came to an abrupt end?
Absolutely no idea, to tell you the truth. And this wasn't. I just didn't go to Athens. It was at his behest. I went there. It was about 3 weeks before the season was to start, and I think around about 2 weeks before pre-season was going. So I did 1 week of pre-season. It came as a bit of a surprise to me, I must admit. But you know, I shouldn't be surprised about anything in football. What did make me laugh to a certain extent, irritated me at the time, but now I think about it, I was called into a little office that I knew well from my Brian Clough days and way back. It's never been a great office for me. And it was the chief executive and the director of football, who had been in a previous life a swimming instructor in Athens, and another French guy, who the three of them, to give me the news that the way I ran the football club, or the way I was running it for about 4 or 5 months, was not the way they wanted to run it, and that was it. So I left the office. I went into my own little office, called in some of my coaching staff to tell them that we'll be going home a wee bit more or earlier than we had anticipated. And about 24 minutes later, knocking my door, one of my players said, "Well, Gaffer, listen, really sorry to hear the news, but is it true you've gone and they've appointed Lemucci?" So at least they could have waited actually till I left the office before they had appointed him. But so, you know, it's such as life. It's the nature of the game. But
it just sort of gives us an indication, a little window into the world of Nottingham Forest and what it's like behind the scenes with Marinakis in charge. But obviously we'll get into... Go on.
No, what would have concerned me way back is that game against Leicester last season. That is something that I, believe it or not, even I very mild-mannered, I must admit, Nuno was, and he took the criticism on the field, which I wouldn't have been too pleased about myself at the time. I think the owner was probably seething about that. They're seething about dropping points and therefore seeing Champions League football almost go up in smoke. I think that was his biggest concern at that time, not necessarily about the welfare of the player who just come off. But I think
what they said afterwards.
No, my point is this here, that at the start of the season, Nottingham Forest would have been delighted to be in that position and delighted to be in European football, even if it was the Conference League. And I actually think perhaps even Marinakis might have been. But when you're so close to something then, and you see points dropping against a side who's going to be relegated, then you can be furious. And the point is this here, that you don't forget these particular things. Now, Nuno would have not been happy with the confrontation at that particular time, but he handled it really well, or, you know, in the manner in which he did, and came on TV and said, no, there's nothing really about that. It was a discussion as much as anything else. Whatever's happened pre-season, he's obviously not happy. And to come out and say that the relationship's not good, almost unprompted in many aspects, I think, that's a wee bit worry. you mentioned the point, do you poke the bear? I'm not so sure that you do. And this is a problem. So it will be a problem in future.
OK, let's hear from Nuno Espirito Santo, because he was talking pre-match and post-match, and he said, well, sort of two different things, really, but he's gone along the same theme, which is basically they've got a problem to sort out.
I always had a very good relationship with the owner. Last season was very, very, very close, almost daily basis. This season, not so well. But I always believe that dialogue and what you say or your opinion is always valid, because my concern is the squad and the season that we have ahead of us. But our relations has changed.
It's changed?
Yeah, it's not so close. It's not on a daily basis. So, yeah.
Is that a good thing, though? Or?
No, it's not good. It's not good. I think everybody at the club should be together, but it's not a reality.
That was Friday, so this was in the build-up to the game, and this is what he said straight after the match.
The truth is that we have to speak. We have to speak, and we will do it this week. This is the truth, and try to create a better platform moving forward.
Nuno, can I just ask, are there plans then to speak to the owner later this week?
Yes, of course. It's needed. It's needed.
And do you still feel confident then that that's a relationship that can still be a very healthy one, working-wise?
I hope so. I think we are grown-up people that want the best for the club. This is what is important.
Well, we know because of history, and Martin has already outlined it, that he doesn't really tolerate insubordination, Marinakis. And Nuno will be aware of that. So this is a bit of a gamble, isn't it?
Yes and no. I think the tone of his second interview there was more consolatory, and I know that Marinakis has taken note of that. The damage may already have been done, but let's go back to where we were on Friday morning. We were preparing for this show on Friday morning. We got news from a journalist in Italy who we understand has connections with the Nottingham Forest hierarchy, that maybe Evangelos Marinakis is contemplating a change of manager. The name Ange Postecoglou was raised. We checked that out. His camp distanced themselves, and I think he's going to be cautious about what job he takes next. He wants to return to the Premier League, but it needs to be for the right opportunity. Nuno's got wind of that before his press conference. I understand that maybe he was advised to play it down, business as usual, nothing to see here. He's clearly done the opposite, because I think his back has been put out, that there's a possibility that his owner is looking for a new manager when he's just delivered European football for the first time since the 1990s. So let's not rewrite the narrative here that the reason Nuno's job is under threat is because he spoke out against the owner in a press conference. The reason he did that, in my opinion, is because he knew he was already under the cosh.
Well, the suggestion is that actually the reason that he's spoken out is because he hasn't got the players that he wanted. There was discussions over Adama Traore, and actually the falling out is not necessarily with Marinakis, but it's with Edu, the sporting director, who has been parachuted in over the course of the summer, and he's sort of taken the lead on recruitment, and he hasn't brought in the players that Nuno wants. He's brought in the players that he believes will benefit the club going forward. So if that relationship is fractured, how does it impact how Nuno is going to work? And obviously Marinakis is going to choose the man he's just brought in rather than the one who's been there for 18 months.
Well, I didn't realise that conversation you just said, that the journalist in Italy, and that would make a bit of sense to me, because you'd definitely be riled about that. Now the problem in today's football now, I would have said, with the exception of very, very few managers, most of them are actually coaches now, and directors of football are coming in, and they are forcing players into the football club. And you have to deal with that. You have to deal with it. You know, you have to manage these particular players. So I would think that Crook is probably more to the point about something being riled, because that's the point. You can have no conversation or no communication with the director of football, and that's not great, I must admit. But I wouldn't have thought that was the reason. And I think there's something more has riled Nuno for him to be so mild-mannered in front of camera. I'm not saying that that's his character at all. I'm just saying that that's the... But really to come, and as I said, almost unprompted, to say the relationship is not great. I'm now, listening to what you've just said there, I think that there will be more in that.
Yeah, because the Nottingham Forest fans that were phoning in yesterday were sort of suggesting that this is all because Nuno has thrown his toys out the pram. But you two are pretty certain that you think he's got his back up because of the fact that he's got wind that someone is thinking about making a change of his position?
I think there is an issue between him and Edu. There have been disagreements over signings. He wanted to bring in Adama Traore, a player that he knows from Wolverhampton Wanderers. That didn't happen, and I think maybe the suspicion from Nuno is that Edu wasn't necessarily on board with that signing. There have been signings that have been happening away from the manager, but as you say, that isn't necessarily uncommon in the modern game because you have a director of football and you have a coach. But ultimately, I think the reason that Nuno has spoken out is because this story came out in Italy. And the narrative now from sources at Forest is that Marinakis is annoyed. And this is why Nuno's job is on the line because of what he said in the press conference.
So basically, Forest are winning the PR war, or Marinakis is?
Potentially.
Interesting. 03717 2233 44. If you're a Forest fan and you want to have your say on this, if you've been watching football this weekend and you want to talk to us, you can do. 03717 2233 44. You can WhatsApp us on that number. You can text us as well, 81089. We would love to hear from you. So much to talk about, still about Nottingham Forest and Crystal Palace from yesterday. Ange Postecoglou linked with the Premier League return. Is that the right way of doing things? Apparently, Marinakis and Ange Postecoglou are quite close. They're mates, apparently. Is it always good working with your mates? We'll find out next.
unlocker of defensive back.
If you've got a problem or something to say, you don't have the right to say anything about something. I do.
This nonsense kills the game.
It's talkSPORT. Sam Matterface with Alex Crook and Martin O'Neill. We're here till 1 o'clock this afternoon, and we're taking your calls 03717223344. If you are a Nottingham Forest fan, we'd love to hear from you. Love Nuno, love Marinakis, says Matt in Nottingham. What will be, but it needs sorting out today and the situation clarified to fans so we can look forward to the season and the Europa League draw on Friday. Morning, little Sam, Salty and Martin. Love hearing Martin O'Neill's forthright views. Fantastic to have him on again this morning. Also, I cannot wait for Salty's view on Tottenham. Ash, the Newcastle fan. You ready for that? You all got your ducks in a row for your Tottenham analysis?
Well, they've got a proper manager in there now, haven't they? So it's not a surprise they're winning more games.
Okay, we'll move on. Wolves fan here, so I have lots of history with Nuno. Great person, lovely chap, but you get his backup and that's it. No second chance, usually. He has his belief and he won't be moved. Everyone from players, staff and supporters actually were in tears in his last game with us, but break his trust and he can turn very quickly. He creates a great team, insists on a team, doesn't like massive squads, and I would take him back in a heartbeat. Great show, chaps. That's from Phil in Staffordshire. More on that in just a second. Ange Postecoglou has been linked as one of the prominent names, reportedly admired by Marinakis. I couldn't really work out whether or not they really were friends. I know they were at an awards ceremony together and they exchanged nice words, but are they really mates or is it just because they're the Greek connection?
I think there's a big admiration from Marinakis towards Postecoglou as a coach because of the style of play as well. And that's another point that we haven't really touched on. I was told on Friday night another reason for this rift between Nuno and the hierarchy is that maybe with Edu coming in, they want to play a more progressive style of football. Nottingham Forest, not just Forest, but all the clubs that are under the Marinakis ownership. And Nuno's style, obviously, is to not have much possession, hit on the counter-attack, and it served them very well last season. As that texter said there, he's not really for turning Nuno, so I think that's an issue as well. And that's where the Postecoglou link does make a lot of sense because we know the type of football he does play.
Martin, what do managers feel like when you've got a team staying in the Premier League, first of all, then you've got them into a European competition and probably punched above your weight, and then immediately after you've achieved that great success, someone says to you, yeah, but could you play a little bit better?
Yeah, it really will do your brain in that. Nottingham Forest have had one of their best seasons in a long, long time. They were very close to being in the Champions League. No one would have dreamed about that at the start of last season. No one would have dreamed about it. You know, considering the season that they had, the previous season. So, and they played a counter-attacking side. Yes, they have had less possession, even sometimes at home in games, but it has been proved successful. And until it proves unsuccessful, I think you've got to go with it. So you've qualified for European football, you know, on what you've done with players. And strangely enough, in many aspects, you're using some of those players who love the counter-attacking. You know, Gibbs White has found a niche for himself by picking the ball up, and it's dropped to him. The next thing you know, he's gone 30, 40 yards with the ball. Elanga last season, I think it was against Tottenham Hotspur, was it? Not Manchester United. After a couple of minutes of the game, Manchester United corner kick, and Elanga scores at the other end or sticks it in for running 40, 50 yards. And Nottingham Forest fans have been used to that. Yeah, that's the type of play. Fine. Of course, at home particularly, you'd like to have a wee bit more possession. You'd like to close players down a wee bit more quickly. I think you definitely would want to do that. But in time, I think that you can get onto that. If, you know, remember, Nuno's not been there that long. So he's got a bit of success, terrific success going there. And in time he will do. He will actually be able to press forward as he did with Wolves.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they do turn to Ange Postecoglou, especially if there is already a relationship between the two. It's not always the way that two mates work together particularly well.
Took a while for the penny to drop there. Normally we're on the same wavelength.
Oh, crikey. He's not in the best of places today, by the way. He went to order coffee round the corner and he was so zoned out that the woman who was asking what coffee he wanted asked him 3 times and he completely...
It's the last week of the transfer window, Martin. My brain is fried. My brain is fried.
I can understand that.
But sometimes two highly opinionated people can work together. You wanted to work with Roy and it worked, an absolute treat.
It did, yeah. Yeah, he's an extraordinary character, an extraordinary footballer, a really great leader of men. Yeah, I don't know where this came from. I'm surprised you even mentioned it. Haven't spoken to him for a little while, but terrific. Really, really terrific.
I suppose the point is that you've got Marinakis and Ange Postecoglou. That was my point. That you're highly opinionated into the way they want to do things, and they're well connected and friends. But sometimes that doesn't work. But I suppose you've proved that it already can work.
Well, okay. The situation I saw before when Roy and I joined forces together was that he had been a manager. And of course, as a manager, you like the final decision. You like to be. This is it. You can listen to your coaching staff. You can do all of those particular things. But you've been a manager. You did brilliantly at Sunderland and excellently there. There's no question about it. And he was getting just the very fact that he would want the decisions for himself. And I felt that this might be a problem, but it never was. And if it was, he never showed it. This is the whole point. I asked him his opinion about the team, and the same with the coaching staff, Steve and Steve Walford and Steve Guppy as well too. Something the goalkeeping coach would, Seamus McDonough put his still in. I told him to stay clear of talking about outfield players, but overall, yeah. But Roy decided, and the thing about it is this here, that you would never have found Roy coming afterwards and saying, regardless of the result, I would have picked a different side. Even an aside to someone, never did that there. So, and that would have been difficult for a manager to not have the final say as an assistant manager.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how those two personalities gel, if indeed it does happen. The FA is investigating a banner that was unfurled during yesterday's match by Crystal Palace fans that depicted the Nottingham Forest owner, Evangelos Marinakis, holding a gun to midfielder Morgan Gibbs-White's head. There was a few other depictions on that banner as well. Forest said they're hugely disappointed that supporters were permitted to bring the banner into Selhurst Park. The banner, which, in addition to the portrayal of Marinakis pointing the gun, says, Mr. Marinakis is not involved in blackmail, not involved in match-fixing, drug trafficking or corruption. The FA is now probing the banner and will decide whether Palace face a punishment. There are strict rules regarding messaging contained in such banners regarding foul language, defamatory, political and offensive slogans. Reports suggest there's a major frustration at the City Ground that more was not done to prevent the banner from being displayed, and the banner is viewed at Forest as being inflammatory and xenophobic. They're privately questioning why Palace and the club ownership group, consisting of Woody Johnson, Parish, Josh Harris and David Blitzer, have not publicly come out and criticised the banner. Why haven't Palace reacted?
Obviously, they know there's a depth of feeling from Palace fans towards Forest because of what they perceive as Forest's role in them getting demoted when it came to dropping out of the Europa League and into the Conference League. My personal opinion is it would have happened anyway. I don't think it needed Evangelos Marinakis to contact UEFA in order for the outcome to occur that we ended up with. But I understand why Forest are frustrated. I mean, it can't be easy to smuggle in a banner of that size into a football stadium. I would expect the FA to come down hard. I think there will be a fine. And yeah, maybe in the interest of good taste, we should have had a statement from Palace and from Steve Parish in particular condemning it.
Forest fans conflicting in all of this, says Lee's talking about the Nuno situation. We love Nuno. We have a lot of loyalty towards Marinakis because of what he has done for our club and our city. We'd love to see you now stay, Nuno, but ultimately back the decision that Marinakis makes. Feel for Nuno here, says Dave, the Forest fan on text. He indirectly referenced how Marinakis spoke to him when Cooper was in charge, so he knows how Nottingham Forest operate. Don't forget, Nuno signed a contract in June for 3 more years. Clubs entitled to have backup plans for managers like Brighton do, but you don't leak it to the press because it's disrespectful. Marinakis can't complain about Spurs' conduct when this has been leaked out of his club. Sort it out like adults, give the team stability and get on with your jobs, and let's have a memorable season. You're listening to talkSPORT. It's Sam Matterface with Martin O'Neill and Alex Crook. We're going to look back on events yesterday at Craven Cottage in the next few moments. With Selco Builders Warehouse, check out this month's real deals at selcobw.com.
Over the last few years, Formula One has gone from elitist and insular to a global entertainment brand. The transformation's down to American investment group Liberty Media, who cultivated a new image for the sport since buying it in 2016. Better access to drivers, improved content on social media and tapping into the US market have given F1 a massive boost in both attention and revenues. But is everyone happy? The fans certainly are, as evidenced by Drive to Survive. Almost 7 million people per season have tuned in to get all the gossip and all the drama from the paddock. The extra exposure means the drivers can demand a higher salary too. In 2010, the top drivers were earning $20 million a year, which isn't bad. But now, the very best earned 3 times that, with Max Verstappen getting a whopping $65 million in 2025. But money doesn't always buy happiness. Some drivers, including Verstappen, don't like the pageantry the changes have brought about. In Las Vegas in 2023, Verstappen said the drivers were made to look like clowns, and the event was 99% performance and 1% race. Some purists who still watch the sport feel the same, and that the spirit of competition has suffered. But Formula One and Liberty Media don't look like slowing down anytime soon. So expect more races, major events and exclusive access in future.
Sport, it's Sam Matterface and Alex Crook alongside Martin O'Neill today, and we're live on talkSPORT till 1 o'clock this afternoon. And let's talk a little bit about what happened yesterday with Manchester United, because I wonder whether or not the Manchester United fans are concerned once more. Another 2 games, and they still haven't scored a goal for themselves. Rodrigo Muñiz's own goal separated the 2 teams going into the final few minutes of the game, only for Fulham to get back in it right at the end. And I must admit, towards the end of the game, I thought that Fulham were the likeliest to go on and win it. But even the statisticians are trolling Manchester United now. Opta Joe last night tweeting out that Ruben Amorim has got the same win percentage as Neil Warnock, who was relegated twice. They only created 1 big chance in the game yesterday that you were at Craven Cottage, and that was made by Altay Bayındır. And since the start of April, did you know that Manchester United have fewer points in the Premier League than Leicester, and they are in the Championship? So how are you feeling this morning?
Well, the other glaring stat you missed there is that Ruben Amorim has now managed more games than he's picked up points. I think it's 29 games in the Premier League and 28 points. That
already the case, wasn't it?
That would just about be enough to keep you in the Premier League, if a point a game, there or thereabouts. But it's obviously not good enough. And they've spent a lot of money on attacking players in the summer. I think there's been reasons for positivity there. Cunha, again, particularly in the first half, was excellent. It's going to take time to gel. But it's so disjointed in other areas of the pitch. The goalkeeper was a nervous wreck every time a set piece came in. They're going to try and address that by signing Seny Lammers, but he's a youngster, still relatively inexperienced, coming in from Belgium. You've got a massive issue in the centre of midfield, and I joked about it on air, got a bit of stick from Charlie Adam. But at one stage in the second half yesterday, the 2 holding midfielders for Manchester United were Mason Mount and Bruno Fernandes. Now, there isn't a defensive mindset between them. That isn't a criticism of the player, but they aren't defensive midfielders. And what you have here is a manager who is so wedded to his system that there's no in-game tactical flexibility. And I think that's a massive problem.
Well, the biggest problem at Manchester United was that they didn't have the quality of players. That's what everybody said. They had bad recruitment. That was the big issue. Then it was the attitude of the players. Then it was the culture of the club. Now, Ruben Amorim apparently has sorted all this out by getting out the players that he wanted. They've spent £200 million on brand new attacking talent. So is the problem now the system, Martin?
Well, it's the easiest thing to blame. You can be inflexible as a manager. We said this last season, that if you've come in with a set plan and you feel as if a system will beat the actual players in the sense that the system is that I will get players to fit into this particular system. That's all fine in a long-term plan, but you've got to win football games. You've got to win football matches. It doesn't matter who you are, but you're at Manchester United, so you've got to win football games. And if it is the system that you feel has been very successful for you, but after quite a number of games is not working, I feel as if you have to be more flexible then, if that's the case, and and allow players to go and deal with the ball. You can't, every single time that you lose the ball, you can't blame a system for that. You can't. It's not a system. Players, it's players who win football games for you. And I don't. You've just made the point, Crook, about the two midfield players, the two holding players or two attacking players. That can happen during a game. That definitely can. But if it's going to be a progression, and in other words, and you might after 15 minutes have that situation there for the rest of the game, that becomes a bit of a problem. What Manchester United, from my viewpoint, have done is that they've signed some real attacking players. I think Cunha's a really good footballer. I think he'll be a really fine player. I was slightly concerned about his attitude at the end when he was at Wolves, getting himself sent off, but that maybe a bit of frustration. But he is really a talented footballer, fine in the side. And Mbeumo is actually a really talented player as well too. So I think those things can work. But effectively, you're not all that brilliant defensively. You have a problem still defensively, and that's it. And no matter how many attacking players you have, the minute you lose the ball, now the first half, Manchester United have closed players down. I thought, this is it. This is the new Manchester United. I'm thinking this is great. They're closing players down, absolutely winning the ball and looking as if they can create at any given minute. Second half, totally the opposite. Couldn't get the ball. Couldn't get it. But players, is it the lad Dorgu who plays wide left-hand side? He's yet to convince me that he's a Manchester United player. He gets it, he's wide, he looks up, and he just checks back. He checks back and gives the ball back again. And Manchester United started in the last 15 or 20 minutes of the game, particularly when the equaliser came in, looked bedraggled. That's the problem with it all. Those things can still be sorted out at some stage or another, but defensively, they still have a problem.
And there are some fall guys from this rigid system. Bruno Fernandes, the manager's come out afterwards. Obviously, he's ballooned the penalty into the sky. We'll probably talk about his antics, theatrics with the referee a bit later. But the manager came out afterwards and said the reason he was frustrated was because he wasn't able to influence the game. Well, that's because he's not playing in the position where he can influence the game. He's playing too deep. We saw it in the Europa League final last season. Amad Diallo is a brilliant attacking player. He scores goals, he creates opportunities, he runs at defenders. It's difficult to do that as a right wing-back. He'd rather be in one of those number 10 positions if you're going to play that way, or actually, he'd rather be an old school when you're in the sort of Andrei Kanchelskis, Ryan Giggs mould. And the other fall guy, and we've been reporting this exclusively this morning, Kobbie Mainoo, who I maintain has the ability to be a generational talent. Yes, there's still elements of his game that needs to work on. He's not played a single minute this season. And then we're being told after the game, the reason for that is that he's competing for one of those number 6 positions with Bruno Fernandes. Well, Bruno Fernandes is not a number 6. So is it any wonder that Kobbie Mainoo is contemplating leaving his boyhood club in this window? If I was him, I wouldn't stick around because it's pretty clear the manager doesn't fancy him.
Yeah. This sounds a real total simplification of football. But you know what? When you have the ball, you can create, you must create. When you don't have the ball, even people who it's not their strong point about winning the ball, at least you can drop back into positions again and make it more difficult for the opposition to play through you.
Which they didn't do for the equalising goal.
Bruno Fernandes didn't track his man because, again, it's not his mindset to do that.
That's it. Well, it is a problem. It's a problem when you don't have the ball. And when you don't have the ball and players, their first thought, it's not necessarily because you're always lazy, although there are quite a number of lazy players playing in the Premier League. I can name a few. But what I can say is that it's not your first thought. Yeah. I was exactly the same, an attacking player. And it took ages for it to sink into me. I needed Brian Clough to tell me, hey, son, the minute you've lost the ball, you're back in again. You're back in the position again. You should be. That's it. You're filling in a position, so you're stopping opposition playing through that part of you, at least, and then it's directed elsewhere.
OK, Bruno Fernandes did manage to get himself a penalty yesterday because Calvin Bassey was deemed to have been wrestling Mason Mount. That was quite a big discussion because of the pulling and pushing at corners. I know that the VAR have been instructed this year to keep an eye on sustained holding inside the penalty area, but actually there's quite a lot going on in that penalty area before Calvin Bassey decides to go all WWE on Mason Mount. But one of the other big talking points from yesterday was Manchester United's opening goal, where Calvin Bassey felt he was fouled by Lenny Yoro. talkSPORT's Men in Black podcast dissects all the weekend's big controversial incidents. So let's hear what the former Premier League referee Chris Foy had to say about that Calvin Bassey incident.
Yes, there was two hands in his lower back. I think there was a nudge. I think that this season we've seen a raising of the bar in relation to physicality. I don't think it was a clear aggressive push. Yes, the hands are in the back. I think it's more of a nudge, and he drops to his knees, and the referee decided that didn't meet the threshold for a clear foul and didn't award a free kick. And I can understand, with the way the referees are refereeing this season, why that wasn't given. But a lot of people will say, Chris, that was a foul, and a lot will say it wasn't.
What did you think? Did you think it was a foul?
It's a foul. It's a foul. It doesn't matter whether he's actually pushed him in the back. And this idea that, that's a big, strong defender, he shouldn't go down. No, he's pushed in the back. He's not expecting to be pushed in the back, and he's been put off. It's absolute. It's as clear as daylight.
You can watch the full podcast from 1 o'clock on YouTube, by the way, and it will be available on the Premier League All Access feed wherever you get your podcast. It's quite an interesting discussion about what happens when the referee bumps into Bruno Fernandes as well, because Bruno says he was triggered by that incident. He says it's not the reason I missed the penalty, but I was upset because the referee didn't apologise to me, and that's what triggered me in that moment. It's not an excuse to miss it. I hit a bad ball. It took it from underneath my foot, and that's why it ended up going over the bar, but it triggered me.
What a baby. Honestly, it's pathetic. Triggered him because he bumped the referee before ballooning the pen over the bar. This is supposed to be the captain of one of the biggest clubs in the world. Would you see Eric Cantona, Steve Bruce, Roy Keane, Brian Robson be put off, Martin, because the referee bumped into him? Grow up, honestly. Therein lies the problem with the modern day Manchester United. Look at Wayne Rooney. He was having a row with the referee, turns around and smashes a volley into the top corner. That's how you react.
I must admit, this did happen way back quite some years ago when Brian Clough took me off for me missing a glaring opportunity, and I blamed the referee. Who was only about 65 yards away. No, I'm only joking. I'm having a joke. I mean, it's ridiculous, and I'm totally with Crookie. I mean, if that's the case, if the referee's got in your way in any aspect, could recompose yourself.
Exactly what I said on it.
Recompose yourself.
Which is what he did, actually. He then went over, picked the ball up, walked away, went back in again, put it down, and then took his time. But is this sort of more evidence as to why people question whether or not he should be the Manchester United captain?
I don't know about that. I'm not so sure about that. There's an isolated incident. People are talking about him being not a Manchester United captain, perhaps maybe because he's an attacking player and it doesn't look at the defensive side of things. And yet, in all honesty, he's been a really terrific player for Man United. He has been a really good player. No, the point you might make is that they do have a number of players playing it who want to play in that position. This is the point. You've got Cunha, you would have to say, is almost like that in the same position. Mainu, as you just mentioned, doesn't get a look in at this minute. I am, like you, Crick, I'm quite surprised about that there, really, because he really talented footballer. And Casemiro's playing there at this minute, who's been a great player, don't get me wrong, great player, could not argue with his career, but he's the same age as me,
Crookie did say, though, he looked in great shape yesterday. You were quite impressed with his physique yesterday, weren't you, when you were on the Game Day Live?
He looks a lot fitter than he did this time last year, but he's not the long-term issue. And back to Kobbie Mainoo, this is also someone who's come through the Manchester United Academy. That is the DNA of the football club. If he ends up leaving, that's a really bad look on the manager, in my opinion.
Yeah, but for PSR purposes, if he did go, then all the money would go on the bottom line. I wonder if Sir Jim Ratcliffe would rather like that. Interesting. We'll talk a little bit about other young players in the next few moments, because a schoolboy, Max Dowman, played for Arsenal at the weekend. You're listening to White and Jordan on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go.
unlocker of defences. If you've got a problem or something to say, you don't have the right to say anything about something. I do.
This nonsense kills the game.
Indeed, the NFL is on the way back, and we've got a VIP competition for you, which ends tonight as the NFL returns to Wembley in October. The Los Angeles Rams take on the Jacksonville Jaguars, and we're giving you a chance to win 6 seats in a private box, plus full hospitality, $5,000 spending money, but it all ends at 11 o'clock tonight, so be quick. Here's how to enter.
18 plus, UK excluding Northern Ireland. For a chance to win, text the word cash to 83338 and you're in the draw. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. You must have the bill payer's permission or enter for free by calling 0330 880 3338. All entries must be received by 25th August at 11 p.m. This is a talkSPORT limited promotion run on talkSPORT, Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. See talksport.com for terms and conditions.
Schoolboy Max Dowman made his much-anticipated Premier League debut for Arsenal in a comfortable victory over Leeds at the weekend. He was impressive. He obviously made a high contribution to the game as well. But is it too much too soon for the 15-year-old, or is it, if you're good enough, you're old enough? Back in 2022, Danny Murphy was on this programme, and he was urging caution over Ethan Nwaneri making his debut at Arsenal, given to him by Mikel Arteta.
I'm not convinced it's the best move for a young player. I'm really not. I have seen superstars come on the scene at a young age and thrive and go on and carry on. But there's also been a lot who've fallen by the wayside. But I would be more concerned with sometimes what that can do, because you can elevate a 15, 16, 17-year-old even at times to a position that becomes very difficult for them to cope with mentally.
What safeguards as a manager do you have to consider before throwing a player of that age into the Premier League, Martin?
Well, it's an interesting one. I suppose I've got some ambivalence about this. I suppose it probably depends on the player. What I would be concerned about is that, for instance, young lad come on yesterday, Diamond, he come on. He's learned the tricks of the trade very, very quickly because he won a penalty that by putting his leg in there. So well done that. I'm only joking. But, yeah. Obviously a big talent, no question about it, and that old adage, I suppose, if you're good enough, you're old enough in the side. But it's what happens, because the chances are this season he's not going to be impactful. I don't think it's all right. He's bringing on a 15-year-old lad when you're about 3 or 4-0 up or whatever the case may be, and he's going past a few players and you're all excited by it. But I'm no soothsayer, but I don't think that he's going to be playing a major part unless they've got a lot of injuries during the course of the season. What happens to your thoughts when you, as a 15-year-old, have made your debut, and then as a 16-year-old, a year later, you haven't really seemingly progressed? He does train with the first team, which is great news. He's obviously a brilliant talent. I don't know enough about him, but if he doesn't get the game time, which he may not do at Arsenal, because Arsenal are pressing strongly this season, then that year that you're doing, are you going to improve? You will improve as a footballer, but what does it do to you? In other words, what you're saying to yourself is, well, as a 15-year-old, I was in the periphery of things and almost there. As a 16-year-old, I haven't made any great progress. Whether that happens to this young lad or not, I have no idea.
Obviously, they had injury to Saka and Ødegaard in that game, which is why they had to make earlier changes than maybe they would have liked. But what's the benefit of playing him at this age? Because he's 15, he just finished year 10, right? When you think about that, and anyone who's got kids, they sit there thinking, my kid's in year 10. That's a bit weird, really. But he's still going to be good in a year's time. Why do you have to play him now? What's the reason? Is there a reason behind it? Is there a contractual thing? Are they trying to convince him that his future's at Arsenal? Because he wouldn't have signed pro terms yet.
I think that's probably a question for Mikel Arteta and not us, because he did the same with Ethan Nwaneri, if you remember, early in the season away at Brentford, and he got a bit of stick. I can't remember, one of our pundits accused him of arrogance for making that call, sort of trying to make a name for himself, Mikel Arteta, and here we are a couple of years later, and Ethan Nwaneri is very much a part of the Arsenal first team, so it clearly didn't stunt his development. It's
He didn't play for a while.
No, he didn't. A couple of years, wasn't it? It's a nice game to bring him into, isn't it? They're cruising at home to
Absolutely.
Leeds.
I thought it was a great game to bring him into.
I don't see too many negatives, to be honest. I know you have concerns about it, just from a.
I don't have concerns about it. I just want to know what the positives are for him. Does it? Because I'm worried about. If I'm worried about anything, I'm worried about the impact on him as a person. Does it help him in his development? Does it give him a taste of the Premier League and say, yeah, I want to fight to be in that? Or could it go the other way, as Danny Murphy was suggesting, that actually it could sort of almost make him think he's already made it? Do you have to judge that with the character?
No, it could go the other way. But I think he must be really excited. He's in the squad. He's travelling with the team. He's been doing that there. He's been pre-season. He's played pre-season with them. And now suddenly he plays in the Premier League and makes an impact. I think that's fantastically exciting for him. And I think he, if he's got anything about him, won't worry too much, will realise that, listen, Arsenal, breaking into Arsenal's side and holding down a position is going to be difficult. But it's exciting.
There are cautionary tales. I mean, there are players that have come in very, very early in their career and it hasn't worked out.
Yeah.
And you hope that that's not going to be the case with him, because obviously Arteta seems to think, a bit like he did with the Nwaneri, that they were of the mindset that they could deal with this situation.
And there's also other situations like Yamal, who's gone
Wayne
on
Rooney
to,
back in the day.
Wayne Rooney, absolutely. Wayne Rooney was very strong anyway. He was a strong kid, and you felt as if you could deal with that. Yes, this lad has a bit of growing to do, no question about that. But overall, I think I would have less concerns about it than you do.
What we know is he's coming into a good dressing room, good characters in that dressing room. What you hope is off the pitch, and I'm sure he has, because actually I know people who spent a bit of time with him in the summer. He's a good tennis player as well. He's playing tennis in Portugal in the summer. He's a good lad. He needs a good family unit around him, doesn't he? So just to keep his feet on the ground at this stage.
Good luck to him. I hope it all works out, and good luck to Arsenal as well, because they're going to have to deal with a situation where they don't have Bukayo Saka for 3 weeks. We learnt this morning that he's going to be out until after the international break. Injury not as bad as first feared, but when someone has a hamstring situation after having surgery the year before, there's always a little bit of concern. So I think they're just taking their time with him, making sure that he's okay, but he won't play for England during that international break. That is for sure. So much still to come on the programme this morning, including Thomas Frank in at Spurs. 3 games. They're yet to be defeated yet. Well, they lost on penalties, but that doesn't really count. And 2 back-to-back clean sheets as well. We'll discuss that next.
When Sir Jim Ratcliffe took control of footballing operations at United, the Manchester-born billionaire was somewhat welcomed in as a homegrown hero, ready to save the club from the dark days of the Glazers. But in just 12 months, he became a punch bag for many fans. So what happened? Let's take a look and you can decide for yourself. The important context here is that over the last 3 years, the club has lost over 300 million quid. And from day dot, Ratcliffe committed to fixing this, which of course is the right thing for the club. But what seemed to get fans' backs up is the way Sir Jim Ratcliffe, accompanied by Sir Dave Brailsford, went about it. For example, talkSPORT understands their lunch options at the Carrington canteen have been reduced to just soup and sandwiches, which the higher-ups at the club say will save them £1 million a year. Now that might make sense for many who don't get free meals at work themselves, but it gets a little bit more picky than that. It was reported that after staff brought some stationery, they were ordered to send sellotape back because it wasn't considered essential. The reward for being Steward of the Week used to be 50 quid, but that was scrapped and replaced by a paper certificate. And such is the grip Ratcliffe has on spending, he reportedly scrapped company credit cards, meaning some staff racking up hundreds of pounds worth of expenses and spending weeks out of pocket waiting to be reimbursed. But it's not just the stingy decisions around the amount of tea bags in the cafeteria. In 2024 alone, Ratcliffe oversaw 250 redundancies and more were announced at the beginning of 2025. Now, while there are people who acknowledge that United staff numbers are overinflated, it's the optics which aren't great. Because while all this has been going on, Casemiro's getting paid 350 grand a week, and the club forked out 14 million quid getting rid of Eric Ten Hag and Dan Ashworth. But United fans' rage doesn't just stop here at the cuts. Ratcliffe's unpopular decision to introduce a flat ticket price of 66 quid for every fan, even children, certainly did not go down well. For fans, it feels like the very foundation of the club's support is being attacked for the sake of making marginal financial gains. But Ratcliffe has backed it, saying if you shy away from difficult decisions, then nothing is going to change. And time will tell whether these measures will improve operations at the club and help drag standards up on the pitch. But one thing's for sure, his first year wasn't exactly a charm offensive, and there's still a long way to go for United to be back to where many say they belong.
Morning to you. It's Sam Matterface, Alex Crook and Martin O'Neill. We're here through till 1 o'clock. Ryan says no one criticised Leicester for playing Jeremy Monga. No one criticised West Brom for playing Izzy Brown. Not sure that's true. But as soon as it's Arsenal, then suddenly has an opinion and we're the bad guys. Max Dowman is an absolute superstar. Everyone is just jealous. I don't think anyone said you were bad guys. We're just asking the benefits of it. Aidan Dara says all Arteta did by bringing on that kid was upset the rest of the squad on the fringe stroke second team. Perry Holloway says mindset is one thing, but physicality is another. They are still kids. Look at Owen and Rooney, and it looks like Saka could go the same way. Overplayed too soon, end up retiring as their body breaks down. That's Perry, the Villa fan. Well, let's hope that's not the case, and let's certainly hope that's not the case with either Dalman or Saka. Let's talk about Tottenham Hotspur. Consecutive wins, consecutive clean sheets. Is this Spurs 2.0, or is this another false dawn? Martin, what have you made of the way that Thomas Frank has put his stamp on Tottenham Hotspur?
Well, like everything else, I'll preface it by saying it's early days and it's a couple of games into the season. Excellent win, I must admit. I think they will have gained things from the match against Paris Saint-Germain. I know eventually they lost the lead and lost in penalties, but overall to be playing, to be as a step as a new manager coming in, and as that's one of your first games, I think there's nothing but excitement about the whole thing. Thomas Frank has proved himself a really good manager at Brentford. His personality is all over that football club, and he's trying to do the same here. It is very, very early on. Has he earned the right to manage a club like Tottenham Hotspur? Absolutely.
It's only 3 games in, but there was much more tactical discipline about the team, high press, energy, commitment, ball recoveries. It was terrific. Martin Samuel in the Times, though, this weekend and said, ask the question, how good might Tottenham be if Daniel Levy backed them? I mean, Daniel Levy would probably say, well, I have backed them in terms of bringing in transfers, but to take them to the next level, do they need an extra injection?
Yes, I would say so. I think he came out over the summer after they won that Europa League final and said it's great, but we want to be Premier League champions. But to be Premier League champions, you need to spend big money.
Did he say that they want to be Premier League champions, or did he say that he wanted to be fighting and challenging at the top of the Premier League and for major honours?
I think he said we want to win the Premier League, didn't he? I think that was his quote.
Well, it's a long way from that, aren't they?
Well, yeah, because their record signing is still Dominic Solanke. £65 million is a big outlay, but it's nothing compared to what the likes of City and Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal regularly spend on top players. Even Manchester United has spent more than that on 2 of their signings in this transfer window alone. Wages are a problem because they don't pay the salaries that those other historic members of the so-called Big Six do. I think they've got a genius of a manager in Thomas Frank. I think we really admire what he did at Brentford. We really admire him as a person. I think he did a tactical job on Pep Guardiola at the weekend. He changed the configuration of the midfield, which I had concerns about going into it. I thought Paulinho was excellent. But are Tottenham really going to challenge for the Premier League title this season? I think that's a stretch.
But that's an ask to do.
They
right?
loosen
They
the
were
purse
17th, 16th, 17th at the end of last season. Right, but to move from there to being Premier League title challengers is a massive shift, especially with Champions League commitments as well.
They've got to start breaking their transfer record on a regular basis to be talked about in those terms.
Did you, with your knowledge of this situation, did you think that Eze was always going to go to Arsenal, and do you think that was just a holding thing with Tottenham Hotspur? What's your view?
I think there was always a nagging suspicion that Arsenal would come in and hijack it, which is why I think Tottenham should have made sure they got the deal done earlier. They probably should have triggered the release clause, paid the £68 million and got him signed on before that injury to Kai Havertz.
They would say that they did do the deal. They did make sure that everything was organised with Crystal Palace. They had the personal terms done. They had the fee arranged. Palace wanted him to stay and play in the Thursday night game, which is why the deal was delayed.
He didn't play in the Thursday night game once Arsenal agreed a deal.
That's right, absolutely.
But it's Arsenal, and he is an Arsenal supporter. He's got an attachment with Arsenal, and that's why Tottenham say he went there. But I think Crook is right that actually if they'd stamped their authority earlier in the transfer market and gone maybe in July and went and got Eberechi Eze, it might have been a different situation.
Yeah, I don't know. Arsenal are supposed to have said to Crystal Palace way early on, listen, keep us informed of the situation. It's a nice thing. I remember this myself, let's say having a player and knowing that he wants to improve his game, and then a club coming in and saying, well, keep us informed, as if to say, well, listen, it's your duty to keep us informed of the player. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So Arsenal are asking in the first place, but that's not the point. I think you're right. Tottenham should have nailed it.
Yeah, I think Thomas Frank is well respected as well. I think he's got a great chance of taking Tottenham onto greater things. And I was in the tunnel after the game on Saturday, and he was having a chat with Pep Guardiola. They were having a big old discussion. And I've been in that position a few times, luckily, over the course of the last few years. And I've seen managers go in and talk to Pep, and Pep will sit there, and sometimes those conversations are managers wanting to sort of kneel at the Messiah, if you get what I mean. They sit there and want to sort of, just discuss things with him because he's such a revered character. But this was definitely a meeting of two peers having a genuine discussion about football. It wasn't as if he was subservient to anyone. I think there's a lot of respect in the game for what Thomas Frank has achieved at Brentford and what he could do at Tottenham.
Of course there is. Yeah, he took over from Dean Smith, and it was he himself was new to management, or certainly at the football club. By the time he left, it was all Thomas Frank, and it's right, and he's earned that respect throughout for what he's done. And there's no such thing as a side outside the top 5 or 6 as being an established Premier League team. But as close as anything, you felt that Brentford would be that because of him as much as anything else, regardless of the players that they had at the football club, because of him. And I often wonder whether Visa, for instance, would have acted in the manner in which he did do had Thomas Frank still been the manager there at Brentford. But he has earned the right to do this year. I think you're absolutely spot on with the respect that he has in the game. This idea about having this. This was a conversation at the end between himself. Yeah, okay. I've never really been into that myself because, sitting with a manager afterwards. And in fairness, most managers are the same, would feel the same. It's a lot of small talk. If you've won the game, you want that manager to disappear quickly so that you can celebrate with the rest of your coaching staff or whatever the case may be. And if you've lost the game, you want out of there as quickly as possible as well too. So I've never been into it. Although when Alex Ferguson invites you in, you go in. You definitely go in, regardless of what that result is. And generally speaking, at Old Trafford, it wouldn't be great. But overall, you go in. Now, Arsene Wenger wasn't. I don't know what his relationship was at the latter stages with Sir Alex Ferguson. Two great managers, no question about it. But Arsene Wenger didn't really go into other people's rooms, and I kind of agree with that. I agree with that. What are you going to learn in 3 minutes or 4 minutes conversation with somebody who's actually going to be really nice to you if you've lost the game and actually kind of morose if they've lost?
Yeah, and also we have to remember that what you're going to learn after 3 games of a season, some things, but not everything. And we have to sort of caveat, I suppose, much of what we react to over the early parts of the season with the fact that you're just 2 games in or 3 games in his circumstance.
Tottenham have been down this road before.
Well, it's best to say, because Ryan's just texted in saying, such short memories, Postecoglou started with 10 Premier League wins. Slightly different calibre of opposition if you look back at those 10 Premier League wins. And look how that turned out, he said.
Top under Nuno after.
He was a gnat's eyelash from being relegated. Spurs will fake like the Super Bowl. And football, as we know it, is dying and quickly, says Ryan. I sort of went off on a tangent there towards the end. But Spurs will do nothing with this squad. Not strong enough, no depth. That's from Lee the Baggy. Not enough quality players. Frank is great, says one texter. This is unnamed. But so is Poch, so is Jose, so is Conte. The manager has never been the problem at our club. We are doing great right now. Having 5 of the best 6 defenders has a lot to do with it. Long may it continue, but let's stay calm. When I was speaking to Thomas Frank after the game, he did say to me, we are in the market to add to our group. Are they going to do that before next week's deadline?
Yeah, I'm sure they will. Obviously, they've now got an Eberechi Eze-sized hole to fill with James Maddison out injured, missed out on Morgan Gibbs-White as well. So clearly that's a position they're actively seeking. I wonder if they might try for Bilal El Khanous, who was left out by Leicester at the weekend. There's reports this morning, our own Ben Jacobs, about Incape, defender at Leverkusen, although Arsenal are in for him as well. So you wonder if history might repeat itself there.
Well,
I think I think Daniel Levy wants to invest. I think there will be money to spend, but I think the wages are part of the issue because they've been turned down a few times this season. There was a little bit of talk that they were trying to hijack Brian Mbeumo, and obviously there's a connection with Thomas Frank, but they couldn't match the wages that Manchester United are offering, so that one slipped through their fingers. Johan Wissa, I think, only has sights for Newcastle, so it is proving a difficult window for Spurs.
Let's talk a little bit, Martin, about the problems that James Trafford had. How delicately do you have to handle that situation? Because you brought him back to the club from Burnley. You've paid a lot of money for him. You've put him in the first 2 games of the season. He didn't have the greatest of home debuts. But how do you deal with that as a manager? Because you could crush his confidence if you take him out and put Ederson straight back in.
Well, the manager chose to pick him again, and nothing wrong with that. I think that it was said afterwards that this is the team that I've chosen. This is what the manager said, and that's fine. I don't know what the situation is with the other goalkeeper, whether he wants to leave the football club or whether he's made it clear. I don't know. Are you talking to me about?
Well, now he's made the error and he's played the ball straight to the Tottenham Hotspur player under severe pressure, and it's cost his team a goal. Will Pep Guardiola decide to take him out, or does he have to show faith in him?
Well, my old goalkeeping coach, Seamus McDonough, will not be happy with me saying this, but most goalkeepers do not see an outfield position. They don't see it. He's played the ball in. It was ridiculous. absolutely ridiculous. Regardless of people saying, "Oh, he should have played it to the other boys' favourite side." Don't play the ball at all. You should do. I cannot understand this. You're giving away a goal. That's what you've done. The goals are difficult to come by in the Premier League. They're difficult to come by anywhere. Just don't give a soft goal away. So that's not the point. That's an error he's made. A big error I felt in the game. Is that enough to take him out when I don't know the political situation of what's happening behind? You'll let me know what's happening, Crookie, believe it or not, and take me out of this hole that I'm in. But overall,
would you
really
drop a goalkeeper
know.
for making that error?
Not if I'm telling him that's what he has to do. Yeah. Not at all. I should be blaming myself. If you are asking the goalkeeper at all costs, you're going to play it. Not at all. You cannot take the goalkeeper out for doing something, even if he's made the mistake.
I think Martin's dead right there. Part of the attraction with James Trafford was that he is that ball-playing goalkeeper that Pep Guardiola likes. That's why it's a little bit strange, these Donnarumma suggestions.
He's not that
because he's not a ball-playing goalkeeper. He's a fantastic shot stopper. Call me old-fashioned. I'd rather my goalkeeper just kept the ball at the back of the net personally.
Absolutely.
But there is definite interest in Donnarumma. Certain dominoes have to fall into place. Ederson has a huge offer on the table from Galatasaray, £8 million a year. I'm told that would be a Turkish record in terms of wages. Does he want to make the move from City? We don't know that yet. If he doesn't go, I don't think Donnarumma comes in.
Well, it's staggering. This Donnarumma, effectively, I know Paris Saint-Germain were terrific in the second half of the season from January onwards in the Champions League, and won convincingly against Inter in the final. But he was as big a part to play in the matches. You know, you're talking about Aston Villa. He's made some great saves. He's
Arsenal
done,
in the second leg.
Absolutely. So how you're talking about a goalkeeper who is I seemingly considered like a second choice somewhere along the way. He's a great goalkeeper. There's no question about it. And he's very young.
James Trafford, I wonder what they do with him over the course of the next few weeks. Ederson, does he leave for Galatasaray between now and the close of the window? I think it'll be a bit rough on James Trafford to have switched Burnley for Manchester City, only for then Donnarumma or somebody else to come in and him be relegated to second place after that £30 million move, when he could have played first-team football at Burnley or Newcastle United. But Pep Guardiola will make that decision over the course of the next couple of weeks. We're going to talk about Graham Potter in the next few moments and wonder whether or not you can just get yourself into a bad run of form as a manager like you can as a player. This is talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's real deals at selcobw.com.
Cora's defence is that. If you've got a problem or something to say, you don't have the right to say anything about something. I do.
This nonsense kills the game.
It's talkSPORT, Sam Matterface with Alex Crook, and we've got Martin O'Neill with us today, which is a delight as always. Let's talk about, we had a live commentary on Friday night, didn't we, from West Ham and Chelsea. We've got another one tonight, Newcastle against Liverpool, which is going to be tasty, and we'll look forward to that before 1 o'clock. But I just wonder whether or not Graham Potter is under a little bit of pressure. It's something that you brought to us yesterday, Crook, understanding that he's safe for now, but already there's boardroom pressure to turn around a poor start to the season.
Yeah, and I think it's boardroom pressure that actually was there from the end of last season. Obviously, he came in and replaced Julian Lopetegui. Didn't win too many games. It's now 5 wins in 20 in the Premier League. So 25% or 20%. Is it 20% win ratio?
What, 5 out of 20? It's 25%.
25. There you go. I was right first time.
Don't do maths. Wasn't his strong point as a kid.
Yeah, I'm not Carol Vorderman. But yeah, 25%.
Definitely not.
Win rate is not great. Obviously, the football is not great. They've conceded 8 goals in 2 games. I think Graham Potter rightfully would point to the fact he's not really been able to strengthen the squad this summer because of historic mistakes in terms of recruitment. They sold Mohamed Kudus simply so that he had some funds to bring in new players, but I think ideally he would have rather have kept him. He certainly wants to keep Paquetá, who, as we were talking about on breakfast, is probably, along with Jarrod Bowen, their only sellable asset now. They're trying to sign Yves Bissouma from Tottenham to give them a bit more dynamism in midfield, which is a massive issue. But yeah, I think if they were to lose at Wolves next weekend, which already looks a massive game for both those teams this early in the season, then there will be questions to be answered over the international break. I think David Sullivan has some concerns.
Well, I think he's lost so many games in 2 spells at Chelsea and West Ham now that it feels as if he's going through his own sort of personal slump. Do managers go through those moments where it feels like you can't buy a win from anywhere? Can it be like a dip in form personally, or is there something deeper about West Ham United which is causing them problems?
No, I can empathise with Graham Potter's position. I was very successful with Wycombe Wanderers down the leagues. Really enjoyed myself. Felt as if I could do nothing wrong. I'll go to Leicester. Can't win a game to save my life. And early on in proceedings, crowd baying for blood, things like this here. And of course, you do. You question. You think that you've had a decent week's training. You think you've had everything right. So by Friday evening, you're thinking, I'm looking forward, to a certain extent, you're looking forward to the game, and everything goes wrong on the Saturday, and you think, oh, where are we? So you look for scapegoats, you look for people to blame in many aspects, but the only person that you're going to fundamentally you will be looking at is yourself. And of course you do. You go through those moments of self-doubt. And the most important thing is winning football matches. And it was brought home to me very, very clearly at Wycombe. I've got a 9-year-old daughter, very clever girl, she was, and who realised that life on a Saturday evening would be fantastic for the family if Dad could win the football game, and it would be really rotten if they couldn't. So every morning, heading away, just as I'm travelling home or away, getting into the car, she was last down. I had to wind down the window, and she said, Dad, just win. Just win. So that was it. So there you are. And it must have been about 5 months ago, I was talking to a group of young coaches, and they're asking advice about coaching. And I said to them, you'll all have your own coaching methods. You'll do two sitting beside each other will have a different way of coaching. My main message to you is just win. You've got to win. You've got to win the football games.
Has he got enough help from the recruitment department at West Ham United?
I don't know about that. I genuinely
Is the
don't.
team in a good enough shape?
The team is not good enough. It's definitely not good enough. Cannot defend at all. And it's an interesting one when you have got got players who really don't want to defend, who are defenders. You've got a major problem. You had a lad called Todibo playing in the middle of he was off at half time. He should. He's cost £35 million, I think. He was on loan last year, and he wasn't all that good. And yet you still buy him for £35 million. He's got a lot to do. He hasn't got a defensive thought in his head for a centre defender,
which is a concern.
Just to correct myself, it's Wolves in the League Cup in midweek, which again, because they've started so badly in the Premier League, still I think brings its own pressure.
Of course.
And then they go to Forest next weekend, which, depending what happens with Nuno, I think it's hard to make a case for West Ham going to the City Ground and winning. What about his relationship with the media, Martin? Because we saw at the end of the press conference after the game on Friday night, he snapped at a journalist, stopped him answering a question. He made a comment in relation to a Karen Brady interview when she came on with Henry Winter and Sean Custis last weekend and backed him. And he was asked about it in a press conference, and he said, well, I don't listen to the radio. I certainly don't listen to that station. So he's having a little bit of a pop at talkSPORT. He was also, in my view, disrespecting his owner a little bit, because surely you should be listening whenever your owner is speaking publicly about you. Could he PR himself better? Is he in a position to start making enemies in the media?
Well, listen, you wouldn't get great advice from me for PRing yourself a lot better, I mean, Graham is still a very, very young manager. I was doing it only a few years ago. I'm still snapping at people who are having a go at me. I think that, I believe it or not, in today's game, you have to deal with the media, whether you like it or not. You've umpteen interviews to do after the game. You've got to get yourself right. And I have gone, honestly, for all the advice I'd give people, I never took it myself. And I'd be racing in immediately afterwards and getting irritated with somebody asking you a question. You think, well, that's a kind of a really stupid question. And if the fella had retorted by saying, well, it's a stupid question because you should know the answer to it, talking about myself, I think you have to deal with it a lot better, and that's something that he wouldn't learn from me.
We'll continue to take calls and texts on West Ham United 03717 223344. You can text us 81089. You can also get in touch as well via the social media networks like X and Instagram, and obviously WhatsApp 03717 223344. This is talkSPORT. We're going to do some transfer news before midday, and we'll get the latest odds from BetMGM as well. And Wrexham helping out Sheffield Wednesday.
League teams have got a load of crazy nicknames. Ever wondered where they came from? Some are pretty straightforward. Arsenal are the Gunners because they were founded by a group of munitions workers, and Bournemouth are the Cherries because their old stadium was built right next to a cherry orchard. Then there's Everton. They're dubbed the Toffees, but why? Well, because when the club was formed, just down the road there were 2 local toffee shops. Ipswich Town nicked their nickname off their opponents in the late 90s, Birmingham. The term Tractor Boys was chanted as a way to tease the team about their farming background, but they started using it themselves as a way to cheer on the team in victory instead. Take that, Birmingham. Let's head to Leicester, famous for more than just a red, well, orangey cheese and Jamie Vardy. Leicestershire's also the birthplace of fox hunting, hence the Foxes. Crystal Palace's nickname came from an extreme makeover. They were having a nightmare run in the 70s, and when they were relegated, their manager, Malcolm Allison, wasn't having it. I know what'll make us better, he thought, a new nickname. The Strong and Deadly Eagle sounded like a pretty good bet. And there's more to that story. Brighton used Palace's nickname to inspire their own. Ooh, bird, they thought. Let's just pick a different one for us. And so, in a heated match between the two teams back in 1976, when Palace fans began chanting "Eagles, Eagles," Brighton fans had the perfect reply: "Seagulls, Seagulls." So next time the away ends chanting their crazy nickname, you'll now know exactly where it came from.
Sam Matterface with Alex Crook and with Martin O'Neill as well. Let's get the latest odds from BetMGM.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Get ready for the golden era of sports betting. Visit BetMGM.co.uk or download the app. 18+GambleAware.org.
And Matt Gibson is from BetMGM, and he's here to look at today's top sporting events and discuss the latest odds. And let's look back at the Premier League first of all. Hi, Matt.
Morning, fellas. How are we going?
Yeah, we're good, thank you. What's happened this weekend that's caught your eye, top and bottom of the table?
Oh, plenty to discuss, fellas. We'll talk about the teams that maybe fighting the drop and kind of work our way up from there. West Ham probably our biggest market movers after their showing on Friday night into 7-4 for the drop. Despite scoring first against Chelsea, they looked pretty shaky. Brentford, a lot of people were saying they may or may not be in trouble this year with their outgoings and losing the manager, but a good win for them against Villa. Wolves, again, people thought they'd be down there. They come up just short against Bournemouth. They're 6-4 for the drop. Everton bounced back as I think many people thought they would at the new stadium, winning 2-0. Iliman Ndiaye putting his name in Everton folklore with the first goal there. Burnley beating Sunderland 2-0. Already feels like a big one. That I know it's only 2 games in, but all 3 promoted sides now have a win, which took until October 5th for that feat to be achieved last year. And then the less said about what happened at the Emirates on Saturday night, the better.
I was waiting for you to get to that.
I think Arsenal are far too good for us, right? I think I watched it mainly from behind the sofa, but that second goal where we tipped the ball up 35 yards from goal, and then two passes later, Saka's putting it in near stick past the keeper's shoulder. That's the difference in the top of the Championship and the top of the Premier League, right? But Arsenal are fantastic. They're the joint favourites to win the league at 7-4 with Liverpool, and then Spurs doing what Spurs do at Man City, right? 2 games, 5 goals, 6 points for Thomas Frank. I wonder if their prices are a little bit sneaky, fellas. All right, winning the league might be a stretch too far. 25-1 for Spurs to do that. Top 2, 16-1. Top 4, 11-4. Top 6 are even money based on what we've seen so far in those 2 opening games. I feel like even money for top 6 is a big old price for Spurs.
Interesting. 2 teams that will certainly hope to be in the top 6. Liverpool looking to try and retain their title, and Newcastle United, who certainly want to make sure that they continue their upward trend. Clash tonight live on talkSPORT with a backdrop of Alexander Isak's transfer between the two still hanging and looming large. So what odds have you got on tonight's bear pit of a game?
It'll certainly be hostile, won't it? I wonder if the winner just gets Isak as a result.
We're playing for Alexander Isak.
Yeah, I wonder if they just play for his services. But Yeah, Newcastle 47-20 outsiders at home, which could be a big price if you're a Geordie fan. 14-5 the draw, which I think this result in the Premier League last year ended 3-3. So that's quite a big price.
Yep.
Liverpool 21-20 to go there and win. Couple of stats going in favour for the Geordies. Eddie Howe's won the first home game of the season in all 3 of his full season in charge of Newcastle. And the last time they met was obviously the EFL Cup final, which Newcastle won. Personally, I think Liverpool's front 5 are pretty slippy, and they'll do well to get anywhere near them based on what we saw against Bournemouth last year. So I think I found a little bit of value with Liverpool to win, both teams to score, and over 3.5 goals is around about the 4-1 mark at 18-5. So I don't think that's a bad bet at all.
Yeah, fascinating, because Newcastle's record against Liverpool in the Premier League is poor, but obviously they've got that huge statement win in the cup final, which is their most recent experience of beating Liverpool. I tell you what, it's never an easy place to go, St James's Park, as everybody knows, but with all of the other stuff that's in the air, it makes it even more tricky. It'd be interesting to see what happens tonight. It's live on talkSPORT at 8 o'clock. I was on the train on the way home from Everton last night, or on the way down here last night, and I was trying desperately to keep tabs on Tommy Fleetwood, and my internet connection stuttered almost as much as he did towards the end, but he finally got over the line.
Yeah, we weren't actually planning to talk about the golf today, but listen, Tommy getting over the line at his 164th attempt, you've got to give him props for that. He's waited a long time for a win. I think he's cleared just over 7 million quid in the process. So many congratulations to him. He becomes the second Englishman to win the Tour Championship after Justin Rose in 2018. Tiger Woods, LeBron James, Justin Rose, all congratulating Tommy on his win publicly on social media this morning, which is great to see. He held off the likes of Patrick Cantlay, Russell Henley, Scotty and Cam Young by 3-4 shots, proving that Europeans can win in America. Now we're only a month away from the Ryder Cup, and while a lot of attention was on the Tour Championship, Rasmus Højgaard claimed his Ryder Cup spot over here at the British Masters at the Belfry. Alex Noren won the whole thing.
Yeah.
Højgaard has booked his place in the team, which is a massive feat for him. Early look at the prices. USA obviously odds on 8-11, 11-1 the draw. But I wonder if Tommy gives the Europeans hope, 6-4, which might be a big price for the Europeans. If Tommy carries on the form, gives a little bit of belief to the European boys that they can get over the line over here. But we'll definitely be watching the prices over the next month, and definitely discuss it at bigger length.
Yeah, cheers, Matt. Thank you very much. That's Matt Gibson from BetMGM. That was the latest look at all the latest odds. Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Keep things golden with responsible play at betmgm.co.uk. 18+, gambleaware.org.
Morning, guys. As a West Ham fan, it's so frustrating when you see your team can't do the basics. Our defence is an absolute joke. Aaron Wan-Bissaka made a basic mistake after basic mistake, along with all the other defenders. The players have a lot to answer for, as you should do the basics well. As a youth coach, I always let my players know it's important to do the basics and build from there. Graham Potter is not good enough. He will go before we get to January. Reese is a West Ham season ticket holder. He says Graham Potter is one of the many problems at West Ham. He is statistically our worst ever manager. 3 centre-backs and 8 goals in 2 games. 4 of those being headers. Clearly, it's a coaching issue. The midfield is like 2 veteran players, can't get near anyone, need legs before the end of the window. Incredible, they've left it this long. We've sacrificed 2 games.
It's a bit of a myth, isn't it, as well? I heard somebody speaking about West Ham, I think it was Alan Pardew on the Final Word last night, saying they're not really a club who sack managers. They weren't, historically, but they are recently. David Sullivan has gone through quite a lot of managers. He had David Moyes back twice. He obviously had the Pellegrini experiment that was an absolute disaster. So was Lopetegui. So I think you do have to say here, the problem goes deeper than the man who is in the dugout. And where do you turn to next if you do get rid of Graham Potter?
Interesting, isn't it? I mean, I don't know if it is a coaching issue. Is it? If you've got 3 central defenders and 4 of the goals that have gone in have been headers, actually, is that a desire problem more than anything else?
Well, I mentioned earlier, it certainly is. If you've got central defenders who don't really want to defend, who don't want to cut angles off, who are second into the penalty box. Wan-Bissaka, at the end of his career, he might think of himself. He's actually he's a talented footballer going forward. he doesn't want to defend. He doesn't want to defend. He allows crosses to come in. He goes down. He pays lip service to defending, and it's that if that's your job, that's your first job. That's it. I learned this from an early stage. One of the great managers of all times, worth mentioning again, Brian Clough. Stop the cross coming in, or do your utmost to stop the cross. Just don't turn your back and allow the ball coming in. Anybody can do that. So don't bother going out to him then if you're not wanting to stop it. And these are fundamentals. They're essentials, but they're the first thing you do as a defender. That's your job. Your job is to defend, first of all. When you get forward and as an attacking player, unless you are a wing back and the manager's telling you to try and stay forward as much as possible. But if you are in the back four as a central defender, ball's coming in there, you deal with it. And secondly, if you're a full back, you've got to go out and stop the cross as best as possible.
Wayne is a West Ham fan. Hello, Wayne.
Oh, hi, mate.
What do you want to say?
I've supported West Ham for about 45 years, and my love for them just goes every season.
What little bit of your heart just disappears every single campaign, does it?
You know what? The H word, hate, is starting to come in.
Why?
Everything's wrong. Everything's wrong. The badge isn't right. The kit isn't right. The home kit, carrot shirt, blue arms, white shorts, white socks, simple. Away kit, blue, preferably 2 claret hoops. Third kit, white, not poached smoke or ecru or cream or something like that. Basics. The stadium is rubbish. Everyone's buying players. I can actually, when Lopetegui was in, I could actually see when it's a Lopetegui signing, a Stuyton signing, or a Sullivan signing. You can just tell by the players who's in charge. What are they doing? It's just like, I feel like it's like trading places. Let's just get someone in for £1 and let's just mess the club up. And you know what? The worst thing is that our season's over. I've followed West Ham stats and football stats for absolute donkey's years, and it kills me that after 2 games, if we don't get 10 points in the first 5 games, we won't get into Europe. So our season's over. We'll lose against Wolves. They're the favourites for the League Cup. That means we're out the League Cup. Then we've got Forest away. They're favourites.
You might be writing it off early, and I know you're saying that you're following the stats.
After 2 weeks, the season is over. How can you say that? I was laughing a couple of weeks ago when someone turned around and said because Rangers drew their first game, their season was over. Our season's over. And all the positivity in the closed season. Fulkrug last season, Fulkrug, a professional player, I didn't agree we should have him, turns around and says the team are no. Right, absolutely moans. They're not training, not working hard. We have a pre-season. He's turning around and saying, do you know what? I'm really impressed with how things are. Paquetá's got the betting thing over him out the way, which should mean he's like a new player coming through. You know what I mean? There's so many positive. We won so many more pre-season games than what we usually do. It was all positive, and now it's just poison.
We need someone to counsel Wayne. He needs some help here because and rightly, I think he's upset. Yeah. He's frustrated because this isn't just a one-off. This isn't just 2 games into the season, and that's why look, I caveat everything at this stage of the season by saying we're a couple of games into the campaign, but it's not that with West Ham, is it?
No, because the rot set in at the end of last season. They made a disastrous appointment in Julian Lopetegui. I think we all thought that was the wrong fit because we were being told the reason they wanted to get rid of David Moyes after incredible success that he achieved there was because they were going to change the playing style. Well, that wasn't going to happen under Lopetegui because his philosophy is very similar to David Moyes. He never had a great relationship with the players. He fell out with the sporting director, Tim Stuyton, who was banned from the training ground. So that was a poor appointment. They made some poor signings last summer. Martin's already alluded to one of them in John Clare Tadibo. I know that Newcastle did a lot of homework on his signing, and Eddie Howe decided against it, and it looks like his judgment was spot on. But the points that Wayne was making there are too many decision makers at West Ham. You've got David Sullivan, you've got Karen Brady, who came on this programme, you've got Mark Noble, who still has a big say in recruitment, you've got Carl McCauley there now, who Graham Potter brought with him from Chelsea and Brighton. It was their decision, I understand, to sign Mads Hermansen. That's not worked out particularly well so far, but we're only 2 games in. You've got the Czech guy who's put money into the football club. It's just not run properly. And until that changes, I think it's very difficult for any manager to have a period of success there. And when they do, I have to say it, the fans are very quick to turn. And what you know about Graham Potter is he's a project manager. It took a while for him to win the Brighton fans around. It was only really when they went into lockdown and there weren't any fans in the stadium that his philosophy was allowed to prosper. They came out of lockdown and did really well. So if you hire Graham Potter, It's not a short-term fix. You've got to back him for the long term. If David Sullivan already is having second thoughts, I understand he is, then that tells me the philosophy was all wrong.
You can't go, as he did do when he was at Brighton, 5 games without winning a home game at West Ham United. You can't start your tenure and say I'm a project manager when you won 5 games out of 20 in the Premier League, when actually you had a free hit towards the end of last season. So you weren't fighting against relegation. You weren't scrapping against anything because it was never going to happen. You had the opportunity to express yourself. You've started away at Sunderland on the opening day of the season and got beaten 3-0.
Yeah.
You can understand the frustrations of the supporters. 03717 2233 44 is the number to call. We'll probably try and get some more West Ham callers on because we've got so many of them. We'll do that in just a few moments. Oh, yes, we love the NFL here on talkSPORT, and it returns to Wembley in October. But our VIP competition ends tonight. The Los Angeles Rams taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars in October, and we're giving you the chance to go 6 seats in a private box, full hospitality, $5,000 spending money, but it all ends 11 o'clock tonight. So make sure you are quick to enter, and here's how you do it.
18 plus, UK excluding Northern Ireland. For a chance to win, text the word cash to 83338 and you're in the draw. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. You must have the bill payer's permission or enter for free by calling 0330 880 3338. All entries must be received by 25th August at 11 p.m. This is a talkSPORT limited promotion run on talkSPORT, Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. See talksport.com for terms and conditions.
I feel sorry for Wayne. I could certainly feel his pain when he was talking to us on air just moments ago. And he is right about statistics. You can see patterns in things like that. And being someone who's nerdy enough to sort of dive into those, I remember once upon a time I was 3 or 4 games in, and I knew that if you didn't have a certain number of points at that stage, you couldn't win the title. No one had ever done it. And I'd sort of brought that up with Arsene Wenger, who'd found himself in that position, and then wished very quickly that I hadn't brought that up with Arsene Wenger. Let's move on to Gavin, who's a West Ham fan. Hello.
Hello, Jinx. You all right?
Yeah, we're good, thank you. How are you feeling this morning?
I'm just like every other West Ham supporter. Now, before I say this, I want every other West Ham fan to know I'm not a Graham Potter fan, and I don't think he should be in the situation he's in because he should have been appointed, because Lopetegui should have been appointed. When we got rid of Moyes, now, people can say, West Ham, the grass ain't green on the other side. The season we won the Conference League and the season after that, we was poor in the league. Everyone knew Moyes' time was coming to an end. So when Moyes' time was coming to an end, we should have done what every other team seems to manage to do and buy a decent manager out of their contracts, not just go searching for a manager that's out of work. A lot of pundits say West Ham fans are the poison of the club. We're not the poison. There's only 2 people that are poisonous in that club, and that's Brady and Sullivan.
What did you make of what Karen was saying, though, when she came on this programme?
No one believes a word that comes out of her mouth. No West Ham supporter that's capable and competent of mind believes a word that comes out of either her or Sullivan's mouth.
Why is that? Why is the trust broken down so much?
When we left Upton Park, they said we're going to go into a world-class stadium and we're going to build a world-class team. How many years ago was that? We haven't seen that happen. London Stadium is not a world-class stadium. Not for football anyway. Maybe for athletics, yeah. Not for football. It's not fit for purpose. Where's the money gone from the sale of Upton Park? The team hasn't seen it. The only money we've seen is the money from the Declan Rice sale. David Moyes was backed. Hundreds of millions spent with him. Lopetegui was backed. 100-odd million spent last season with him. Graham Potter ain't been backed. So the West Ham fans that are getting on his back, he's had, 30 million this season? John Kenneth-Stebo, that comes under a Lopetegui signing because he was an obligation to buy when we got him on loan when he was manager. So Graham Potter's now not had a say in that. Callum Wilson, signed by David Sullivan because he's mates with Will Salthouse. That's happened amounts of times. When David Moyes was in charge, we got Danny Ings. That was a David Sullivan signing. There's only 2 poisonous people at this club, and they are Brady and Sullivan.
If they would refute that, obviously. They would say that they're trying to do the best for the club. But I understand that you obviously are hurting, and so are a lot of West Ham fans. Gavin, thank you very much for coming in and speaking to us. Richard, what do you want to say?
Yeah, I'm fairly the same as the first 2 callers, to be honest. But I just want to... I think the malaise comes back to when we was in Europe. We had absolutely 3 great seasons in Europe, 2 semi-final and a final win, but we didn't invest after that. We didn't push on. I mean, yes, the stadium's not fit for purpose, but on European nights it can be brilliant. But honestly, Potter, I don't know whether he is the answer, but certainly Lopetegui wasn't. But we've got a goalkeeper who can't keep goal. We've got defenders who can't defend. We've got midfielders that get overrun, and we've got strikers that can't hold the ball up.
Apart from that,
apart from that, it's still good. But listen, 2 wins and we're top of the league, aren't we? So it can't be that bad, can it?
Thank you, Richard. Appreciate you phoning in. Obviously, there's a problem. The West Ham fans aren't happy, Martin. And when you're in a situation as a manager and you've taken over a club, and already, before you even got in there, there's a problem with the fan base. There's a disconnect between them and the rest of the club. How much harder does that make your job?
Well, the second last caller has mentioned the point that Graham Potter is not responsible for a lot of those signings that he's mentioned earlier, that some things have already been done. And you do, when you, I know as a manager, you step into a football club and you see some players and you think they're really, really fine players. I'm delighted to have inherited them. And there's some players that you think, how on earth are they at this football club? And that's a situation that you have to retrieve. You have to deal with it. You have to get to know the players, all of these particular things. But I get back to the point. If you do need, and it was interesting to listen to last week. Sky Sports covered a number of managers doing their press conference just before the season started, and every single one of them was saying we need more players. And that would have been a call from myself. That would have been my refrain as well, too, saying, listen, we need some more players. And that would probably be true, really. You do need some extra players into the football club, because when the transfer deadline ends on was it the 1st or 2nd of September, that's it. That's it for you. So whatever you have. And at this minute, and I'm saying, I'm not an apologist for Graham Potter, but he's sitting there with the situation of thinking, well, I haven't brought too many players into this football club. I understand, Crook, you're saying he's had a time, and you can do a lot with statistics. But the most important thing, I'll get back to the message. If I was there, just say, somewhere along the way, you've got to find a way to win a football game, win a football match and get started. Because what happens is that winning football games, you get the dissenters in the dressing room having a lesser voice. The players want to listen to you. The crowd start to become a bit more enthused about what you're doing. You've got to win. You've got to win. So, and I know it's easier said than done. I'm pontificating here from a studio, but you've got to win. I found this myself again. So again, back to Leicester, where again I couldn't win a game to save my life. You started to doubt a lot of things. You start to see ghosts in the room and stuff like this here, and you think, whoa, what is happening? You've got to win. And I got lucky because I won a couple of games away from home in London, 2 consecutive games that won, and it starts to change. It starts to change the mentality. You're asking me something that happened years and years ago. How did we win the games? I don't know. You find a way to win the football matches. That's it.
They've got to find a way to win a couple of football matches. They've got Wolverhampton Wanderers on Tuesday night. Adam Bridge is going to be reporting for us as we go round the grounds on Carabao Cup night on Tuesday night with Adrian Durham. And then on Sunday, as part of the Game Day Live programme that I'll be hosting from Anfield, they'll be playing Nottingham Forest. That is going to be intriguing. And make sure you follow everything on talkSPORT. When we come back, we'll be going north of the border to talk about Celtic and Rangers, who have got a big issue.
have thought a sporting event's halftime show could have a bigger impact than the game itself? Well, the Super Bowl halftime show does exactly that. In 2024, Usher brought in an audience of 180 million worldwide, the biggest ever in the event's history. But how did singing and dancing get to be the centrepiece of America's biggest sporting event? The first edition of the Super Bowl was held in 1967 when the Green Bay Packers beat the Kansas City Chiefs in Los Angeles. Because of the sheer size of the event, organisers wanted to put on entertainment at halftime for the fans in the stadium. It was a display of marching bands, dancers and pure USA patriotism, and that was the theme that followed for years. In the 1980s, the Walt Disney Company got involved and we started seeing some interesting and questionable displays. But we got our first glimpse of halftime shows to come in '93 when none other than Michael Jackson stunned fans with his 15-minute medley of his own smash hits. When he walked out on stage, he had to wait for the crowd's cheers to die down for about 2 minutes before even starting his first song. Diana Ross, Gloria Estefan, Phil Collins all starred in their own shows, as did Aerosmith, who performed alongside NSYNC. Things got a little bit out of hand in 2004 when Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson produced perhaps the most famous or infamous wardrobe malfunction in history. Shows from the likes of Prince, Lady Gaga and Beyoncé are considered by critics as the best. To give you an idea of the scale of things, Rihanna's 2023 halftime show included roughly 800 people. These ranged from backing dancers to stage crew to camera operatives broadcasting to millions around the world. The whole stage for that show was built in roughly 8 minutes and was broken down and cleared away in the same time. The acts perform for free nowadays, even though the experts reckon it costs around $13 million to put on Rihanna's show. Artists know they'll rocket up the charts in the following weeks. Rihanna's average sales improved by 140% in the months following her performance. The Super Bowl halftime show will be a fixture in pop culture for years to come. So the question is, who next?
Hello, live football tonight. Newcastle against Liverpool is on talkSPORT. 8 o'clock kickoff. What a grudge match that's going to be. Looking forward to being at St James's Park a little bit later on. It's not been a great start to the season for Rangers. Not since 1989 have Rangers gone without a victory in their first 3 league games of the season. It's now 3 wins in 9 for Rangers boss Russell Martin, who's also got an issue that they might step out of the Champions League. In fairness, I think they were always going to struggle to get into the Champions League group stages, but it doesn't help that they were behind so quickly in that game last week against Club Brugge, and they face them on Wednesday before they have an Old Firm game on Sunday afternoon, which we will follow on talkSPORT. They're 6 points behind Celtic, having played 3 games this season, almost out of the Champions League. And he's fallen out, Russell Martin, with his star striker. Is it all as bad as it sounds, though? Russell Martin doesn't think so.
It's also 2 defeats in Europe, so it's also not like the end of the world. 8 weeks in, you'd usually have 2 or 3 games played by now. We've been 8 weeks and had so many games, gone straight into the fire of European games and stuff like that. So I'm under no illusion. The window needs to shut. Everyone needs to be all in when that happens. Everyone needs to be all in for the next 2 games before it happens. And we can make things feel very different next week.
Martin, has he misjudged that situation, or is he adding a dose of realism?
Well, Rangers, I watched a good chunk of the game yesterday. They're not very good, Rangers. And they haven't been very good for quite some considerable time. On any given day, as they proved last season, they can actually match Celtic over a 90-minute period. But there is absolutely no guarantee at all about them travelling away from home or even at Ibrox winning games. And that's been going on for some considerable time. it's a difficult one. You stepped in. Russell Martin should know the situation there. He's been there as a player, so he knows, and he knows the most important thing. I've mentioned about winning, and winning is absolutely. But if ever applied to football clubs, it's Celtic and Rangers. You've got to win. You've got to hit the ground running, because there's a lot of doubters. I got lucky in many aspects because I won the opening game of the season. In fact, I was actually asked a question before the game started. We played on a Sunday, my very, very first game and Rangers had won. Rangers were a terrific side in those days, really terrific. And Rangers had won the opening game at Ibrox, and we were away at Dundee United. And I was asked by a journalist, if we didn't win that day, was that the league over? And that frightened the life out of me, I must admit.
Before you'd even started the season?
They weren't even expecting Rangers to drop too many points. But the Rangers side that I was up against then would beat this Rangers side about 12-0.
He has got issues in terms of needing goals as well. And yesterday, when they needed a goal against St Mirren after going a goal behind, he turned to his forward, Hamza Igamane, to come off the bench. But according to Russell Martin, he refused to do so. Let's hear from him on why.
Hamza told me he was injured. So we had a bid this week for Hamza. We rejected it. All was fine. Trained fine yesterday, warmed up fine. I turned around to him at 60 minutes because I wanted two strikers on the pitch, why Gas and Danny ended up there, and Hamza told me he's injured.
Okay. Well, first of all, I suppose the question is, should that have stayed in-house? Or because of the situation that he is in, could he be accused of scapegoating Igamane?
You get to a stage and you don't know whether you've done the right thing or not, but sometimes you just get absolutely fed up with players that you think, oh, hold on, do you know what? He was perfectly all right. He was on the bench, and the next thing you know, he's decided not to play. A bit like Tevez away back years and years ago, although Tevez was a proper player. But no, and as a manager, you're thinking, hold on, what is this about? You've just turned down a transfer request from him, or not a transfer request, but an offer for him during the week. He's probably in his mind heading off. And there he decides not to come on. It's a black mark against you as the manager that you don't, and you just feel, oh, I'm not happy with this. Really not happy with it. It's a wee bit like in my managerial days, players coming up, taking players off the field, and them remonstrating with you just as they're coming off. And I thought, I'm not having this. And particularly a player, I remember just pulling and saying, don't you ever do that again. You can remonstrate, you can talk to me in the dressing room about why you were taken off. Chances are you're being taken off because you're not that good. And but overall, seriously, you sometimes just get fed up with a player and you think, yeah, okay, I'm not really dropping him. I'm not putting him under the bus, or what's that phrase where they talk about. But at the end, you listen, he deserves it.
You know Russell well. We've spoken a lot to him. He has got a great opportunity here after struggling at Southampton to keep them up. He obviously did well to get them into the Premier League, but couldn't keep them up. And obviously that can be down to a variety of different factors. But a lot of people said it was to do with the stubbornness. He hasn't got the players to play the way that he wants to play at Rangers either. Is he in danger of missing a good opportunity here?
Maybe, but I come back to what Martin said at the top of this section. This is not a very good Rangers team, and they've not been a very good Rangers team for a number of years now. I think at times they've punched above their weight in Europe, but you look at the managers who've gone in there, Giovanni van Bronckhorst, Michael Beale, who came with a huge reputation, Philip Clement, who's got plenty of experience across the continent. None of them could really get a tune out of this Rangers side. None of them could get close enough to Celtic to keep the Rangers fans happy. So again, is it a problem with the man in the dugout? Is it a problem with the way the club has run? I've just looked at their signings this summer. They've not, for me, spent enough money to close that chasm.
Well, that's
at
not
the top
what the podcaster who came on Weekend Sports Breakfast said. He said, for how much money have they spent this summer?
Well, I'm just looking at the signings here. They've signed...
I think they spent over £20 million this summer. And actually for Scottish football, in the state that it's in at the moment, Martin, that's quite a lot of money, isn't it?
But they've also signed Mikey Moore on a loan transfer. They're a talented young player, but it's asking an awful lot of a 17-year-old to go to a club like Rangers and be able to carry the fight. Max Aarons, whose career has been on a downward spiral for some time now. He signed on loan from Bournemouth. Nasser Dejaga on loan from Wolves. Didn't get a look in there. Joe Rothwell for less than £500,000. A good championship player, really. But again, is he someone who's going to necessarily wrestle the title away from Celtic? I think the problems are at board level. Yes, I think Russell Martin, like Ruben Amorim, is wedded to his playing style. But Rangers knew that when they appointed him.
Yeah.
Can't disagree.
I don't disagree with that. No, that's absolutely right. Russell's got a method of playing, and he sticks to that pretty rigidly. If that's the way you want to play, I get back to the point. But you still know what you're going into. You do know you've been a player there for a while. You know that sort of cauldron. You have to win, and they haven't been able to win football matches at this minute.
Wednesday night's game's massive, isn't it?
That's going to be difficult to overturn, a game away from home. It's probably not going to happen, and that'll be a major disappointment because you're hoping to try and get into the Champions League. You generate some money, generate enthusiasm for the Ibrox crowd as well too. So that would be a big disappointment.
Even the managerial search was a bit of a saga, wasn't it? Because a lot like Steven Gerrard was going to go back, although from what I'm told, he was never overly keen to do that. I think he's still living over in the Middle East and he's quite content. Russell, at one stage, I think, was more inclined to go to Leicester than he was to Rangers. So I don't think the new owners there, the 49ers, have started their tenure particularly well. And actually, just a final point while we're talking about Scottish football, Tony Bloom, who is a minority shareholder now in Hearts, he got a bit of ridicule for suggesting that he thinks Hearts, at some point in the next few years, can win the Scottish Premier League. I think he'll do it.
Well, I wouldn't be too surprised. He's done pretty much everything else he's set his mind to. What about Celtic? A chance to go again against Karat tomorrow in Champions League qualification. They were frustrated, I think, in that first game. And they've been frustrated as well in terms of bringing players in, Martin, because it's something that doesn't get talked about enough. But this has been the case for the last couple of years. They want more players. Brendan's calling, probably calmly, for more enforcements to be able to compete in Europe. They got 65 million quid in the bank just sitting there in liquid asset. Why are they not using it?
Right, well, I don't know the reason why they're not using it, but what I will say is that from a managerial viewpoint, last season was terrific in Europe, absolutely terrific. Eventually bowing out in the last minute of the game against Bayern Munich. You've made this. I know the competition actually probably suited Celtic in many aspects because you're going to, with a little bit of luck, you're going to be drawn against a couple of sides of similar ilk, the way they were able to beat Slovan Bratislava and Young Boys Bern and things like this here. So you can get points up and running and then you can make it. And there's 24 teams out of 36 will go through to the next stages. But even so, you've set a standard there that you want to at least emulate, if not surpass. And you will need some players. Kuhn, I believe he's gone to Como. Yep. And you'll need reinforcements because the season is pretty long.
Do you think that there is a part of the Celtic board that sit there and think to themselves, we don't have to spend too much because we know we're going to win the league anyway because Rangers are so bad?
Well, Rangers are bad, and I don't see the challenge coming from them this particular season anyway. But yeah, I don't know whether there's an element of that there. I was always on to Dermot Desmond, who's the major shareholder. Dermot, we need some more players in, and in fairness, he brought them into me, within the parameters in which we were working in. But Brendan would want the players in, not coming in at the 11th hour. I think he would want the players in now pretty quickly.
This is not a great Celtic side, though, compared to the team that you manage, any more than this is a great Rangers side in opposition, is it?
The Rangers are very poor. I have to save my words about the Celtic side. It's not as strong. Of course, I'm going to say this anyway, really, about our particular team. But we had some brilliant players.
It was a slightly different era in Scottish football as well. Yeah. And also, you've got to caveat the fact that they did do very well in last season's Champions League. But following that up and doing that again is important.
That's what the manager wants to do. Exactly this here. And remember, Celtic they've set a precedent in Europe. I know it was way back in 1967, but they were the first British team to win the European Cup. And all Celtic sides, and I include myself in this, should actually be judged on that standard. This is what you try and aim for. It's not going to happen. And certainly now, in the way that the money has gone, and there's no money in Scotland at all, it's not going to happen. But I think you should aspire to that.
Martin O'Neill is alongside myself and Alex Crook today. We're here till midday. We're going to talk transfers in just a few moments. You're listening to White and Jordan on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go. You're listening to talkSPORT with Sam Matterface, Alex Crook and Martin O'Neill. Do you want to tell that story?
No.
Martin's just giving him a pep talk. Let's just leave it there. Let's talk a little bit about transfers, because transfers are big at this stage. You've got the transfer deadline this time next week. We'll be counting down to 7 o'clock Monday evening. And Manchester United are going to get a new goalkeeper between now and then.
We got a special show, actually, myself and Jim White, 7 till 10, just as the window closes, and what a window it's been as well. And I think we're going to get lots of twists and turns in the last week. Yeah, Manchester United closing in, I believe, on Sonny Lammers at Royal Antwerp. He was left out of their game in Belgium at the weekend because they wanted to protect him from injury. It's a £17 million transfer. It will be interesting to see what happens with the two keepers United currently have on their books in terms of Andre Onana left out the first two games. Altay started those first two games without ever really looking convincing. But I don't think he's quite the sort of frontline proven goalkeeper, Martin, that Manchester United fans would want. It's another gamble, isn't it?
Who?
A rookie from Belgium, basically. Belgium under 21
yeah, I don't know anything about him. So yeah, but you would think that you should be looking for an established goalkeeper of top quality, really. And if you've got the wherewithal to be pushing on, you are Manchester United. Therefore, I think you should be trying to go for the very best.
I said on breakfast this morning, I don't understand why, if they weren't going to spend big money on a goalkeeper, why they didn't just take Aaron Ramsdale.
Yeah, I know. You've been peddling that for quite some while, though, haven't you? Because he's your golfing buddy.
He's not my golfing buddy. I've never played golf with him, contrary to the rumours that you
turned up on your what birthday?
He happened to be staying in the same
birthday were we at? And he was there with his golf clubs.
Well, either way, this is someone who is proven in the Premier League. Yes, I know he's got some relegations on his CV, but he was brilliant in that first year at Arsenal. It was a no-brainer to me. If you're not going to spend big money, you're not going to pay the wages for Donnarumma. Just get someone.
Why does no one want to play the wages for Donnarumma?
I'm not even sure it's just wages, actually, when it comes to Donnarumma. I think PSG are asking for quite a hefty
Well, how can they
fee.
do that? They've
well,
kicked
exactly. Mm. So let's see where that develops. But if he goes anywhere, it's going to be to the blue half of Manchester, not the red.
Interesting. Okay, what else you got for us? Is there? Talk to me about Brighton, because yesterday I was watching the game at the new Hill Dickinson Stadium. Brilliant place to go to, by the way. Fantastic experience there yesterday, and thank you very much to them for looking after us. But Brighton probably should have won that game. They were brilliant in the first half. They created the opportunities, but they lack the killer instinct. They lack that sort of ability to put the ball in the back of the net. They missed key chances, missed the penalty, and ended up conceding 2 goals. They've got a lot of defenders, got a lot of midfield players. They took Carlos Baleba off at half-time for tactical reasons. What's happening there?
I think it's really interesting because they sold João Pedro. Now, a lot of people at Brighton weren't worried about that because he maybe didn't have a stellar season last year, but they're going to miss a player of his quality. I think he's asking an awful lot of Danny Welbeck to lead the line this season because he's a year older. He's only ever once, and that was last season, hit double figures in the Premier League. They've got Jorginho Rutter there, who's not really a striker, and they've paid a lot of money for a couple of Greek youngsters, Stefanis Zimas and Charalampus Kostoulas, particularly Kostoulas, who cost £35 million. He's only 18 years of age. They're going to take a bit of time to bed in the Premier League. Now, Brighton, one of the sides who I think would have come into the season expecting to challenge for Europe. It's been an underwhelming start, 1 point from 2 games. That if you're going to qualify for Europe, you need to win. And I do wonder if they do need to strengthen up top between now and next Monday. At the moment, there's no sign they will. I still think Baleba stays, by the way. I know you've got this conspiracy theory that he was taken off at half-time.
I'm just asking
someone is going to make a big bid. I would be surprised if that happened.
I'm just asking you the question. I mean, it's a bit of an odd decision to take off your best midfield player, even if he's not having his best game, at half-time for tactical reasons.
Yeah, it's strange when there's been a bit of noise around him. I agree with that. You weren't happy with my Greek pronunciation there?
No, I was impressed with your Greek pronunciation. That's probably the best bit of pronunciation that you've done all day, bearing in mind you asked me to Google how to say the other fella that Tottenham are interested in.
We should talk about him, shouldn't we? Because it looks like he's off to Arsenal, if anywhere.
This is Piero Nkapie, who plays at Leverkusen. He's a left-footed centre-back, stroke left-back. He can play wing-back as well, actually. He's very impressive. I saw him last season a lot under Xabi Alonso. He's got a lot about him.
Yeah, Tottenham sources have distanced themselves from interest this morning. They say there hasn't been any contact between them and Leverkusen. I think that's potentially because they've got wind that Arsenal are very much at the negotiating table. But surely they're going to have to offload a couple of players first. Jakob Kivior potentially to Porto. A loan transfer with a permanent obligation in that deal. I think Alexander Zinchenko has been quite public about the fact he would want to move. So I guess if both those players go, they are left-footed, aren't they? Then maybe there would be room for Nketiah.
Martin, do you know what's really fascinating? Is that we talk so much about all these players moving from one club to another. There seems to be a lot of players that have either been recently signed or have only been at a club for a very short space of time that end up being moved on very quickly somewhere else, having been deemed not good enough. Is that because managers are constantly wanting to turn over the playing squad? Or is it because recruitment seems to be so bad that people are taking punts on players that were never going to be able to play at the level that they've been hired to play at?
Well, I think it's the latter. I think it is. I think it's poor recruitment. I think that there's a lot of things now done on AI. You know, you're talking about a scouting system that's not really a scouting system that people are checking on. I'm all on for someone watching a player on video, whatever the case may be, a full 90 minutes of someone. Let's say you weren't aware of him, but then there's all the stages you go to. You have to go and try and find out a little bit about the player. We're talking about 35 million as if it's pocket money. It's still a lot of money. It's a lot of money for football clubs. 35 million, you're spending 80 million pounds, and it doesn't seem to matter anymore. You're right that you're getting players in at a football club. Dean, you think you get all excited about them, but you haven't really known the player, or as much as possible. You haven't done as much homework as you think. You've been looking in a little room about a player, and you think, yeah, I know plenty about him. You don't. You actually don't. You've got to find out. Now, I'll caveat that by saying you never really know a player until he's in your you have him at the football club, but you've got to do a lot more homework. You're spending money like it's going out of fashion. You've got to do a lot better. And I think recruitment, of course, managers want other players in at a football club when you arrive, and I understand that that's the nature of the game. However, you can still work with players, but if those players are not up to scratch and you've paid a lot of money for them, it's ridiculous. The recruitment in recent years, I think, at football clubs, particularly really half-decent football clubs, is nothing short of shocking.
I do also think that there's PSR aspects to this, and sometimes I feel as if the young players in particular are being moved around like commodities more than anything else. Always being
well, you had Ramsey going then to Newcastle because Aston Villa have to abide by the rules. And does that not defeat the object of wanting young players at a football club? The whole idea is that you want some young players coming through. You know that old song that they sing, "He's one of our own, he's one of our own." But it does resonate with you. You do want the young players coming through who belong to a football club, who have been there since 14, 15, 16 years of age and have come through and are starting to do well. So it's defeating the object now of all of this here, that Ramsey's had to go, and apparently he didn't want to leave the football club, but he's had to go because Aston Villa have to make room for other things.
But there's tales of it all over the country.
Of course,
Chelsea had one of the best young youth teams in the country, broken up, sold off everybody to different bits and pieces all over the country. They're all playing in the Premier League, obviously now. Chelsea have tried to buy half of them back as well. Which is an odd situation.
Well, we spoke about Kobbie Mainoo, didn't we? Potentially leaving Manchester United this week. If he does, part of the attraction for United is that it will go down as 100% profit on the balance sheet. And just hearing a few whispers, having reported this morning that is a possibility, that Roberto De Zerbi over at Marseille is a fan of Kobbie Mainoo.
Sure he is. 03717223344 if you want to contribute to that debate, you can do. This is talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's real deals at selcobw.com.
sport since buying it in 2016. Better access to drivers, improved content on social media and tapping into the US market have given F1 a massive boost in both attention and revenues. But is everyone happy? The fans certainly are, as evidenced by Drive to Survive. Almost 7 million people per season have tuned in to get all the gossip and all the drama from the paddock. The extra exposure means the drivers can demand a higher salary too. In 2010, the top drivers were earning $20 million a year, which isn't bad. But now, the very best earned 3 times that, with Max Verstappen getting a whopping $65 million in 2025. But money doesn't always buy happiness. Some drivers, including Verstappen, don't like the pageantry the changes have brought about. In Las Vegas in 2023, Verstappen said the drivers were made to look like clowns, and the event was 99% performance and 1% race. Some purists who still watch the sport feel the same, and that the spirit of competition has suffered. But Formula One and Liberty Media don't look like slowing down anytime soon. So expect more races, major events and exclusive access in future.
VIP competition to win tickets to the Los Angeles Rams against Jacksonville Jaguars closes tonight. The NFL's coming back to Wembley in October. We're giving you the chance to go and sit in a private box, 6 seats, full hospitality, $5,000 spending money. But it all ends at 11 o'clock tonight. And if you want to enter, you have to be quick. And this is how to do it.
18 plus, UK excluding Northern Ireland. For a chance to win, text the word cash to 83338 and you're in the draw. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. You must have the bill payer's permission or enter for free by calling 0330 880 3338. All entries must be received by 25th August at 11 p.m. This is a talkSPORT limited promotion run on talkSPORT, Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. See talksport.com for terms and conditions.
Let's head to Germany. And when the producer said to me, we're going to go and do this German football story, did you see that over the weekend? And I said, yeah, what, the Cologne manager wearing the full Cologne shirt on the touchline? He went, no, not that one. I said, OK, the reporter that went up to the player and asked him questions about the victory and how good the team were. And he said, yeah, but I play for the team that lost. No, not that one. So there's another story that's doing the rounds in Germany. It's been quite an interesting weekend in Germany. And Konstantin Eckner, the German football broadcaster, joins us now. Hi, Konstantin. Thank you very much for coming on the programme.
Hey, yeah, it's entertainment, purely.
It certainly is. I'm not sure that Sebastian Kehl feels that way. He's the sporting director of Dortmund. Joe Bellingham's father reportedly attempted to confront Niko Kovac, the head coach of Borussia Dortmund, after the teenager was hauled off at halftime during their chaotic Bundesliga opener. Just set the scene and tell us what's happened here.
Yeah, you can imagine. Sebastian Kehl, by the way, is in a relationship with a said reporter who got the player wrong during the interview a few hours earlier.
See, look,
imagine that.
It's all tied together.
It's all connected because that happened during the afternoon, the Frankfurt-Bremen game, where the reporter got the player wrong during the interview. And a few hours afterwards, Borussia Dortmund played at St. Pauli. St. Pauli battled relegation last season, so they are, of course, a smaller team. Borussia Dortmund were expected to win. They were leading. They subbed off Joe Bellingham at halftime. they eventually only drew St. Pauli 3-3 because one of their young defenders got sent off in the later stages of the game. And then afterwards, Mark Bellingham, the dad of Job and Jude Bellingham, got into the player tunnel and confronted Sebastian Kehl about all things that went wrong during the game, including his son being subbed off at halftime and the team playing kind of dull, having a lot of possession and doing nothing with it. That was essentially what happened there. And Borussia Dortmund were not happy about Mark Bellingham just going down there and, getting in a confrontation with the sporting director.
Yeah, this is a little bit strange, isn't it, Martin? If you were the manager of a football club and one of the star players' parents came down the tunnel, what would you be thinking?
I'd be thinking he must be in to congratulate me for winning the game or something, I guess here. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's like a scene from a Saturday morning game in Battersea Park. It really is. It is so ridiculous. And it's not helping the player as well, to his father coming down remonstrating because his son hasn't played and then giving instructions about how the game should be played. Once he catch himself on, it's ridiculous.
What is the fallout from it and how have Dortmund sort of reacted? Because we sort of understand that Mark Bellingham was sorting out a meeting with Kovac directly. Did he get to speak to Niko Kovac in the end?
No, not really. Borussia Dortmund reiterated their policy of agents and parents not being allowed to come into the player tunnel after games, basically.
Did they need to reiterate that? I mean, it sounds like standard practice, right?
Yes, I mean, the thing is sometimes parents come inside the player tunnel maybe after a win and they say, hey, hello, and it's great that my son played today or whatever, and hey, thanks manager, whatever, something like that. But now the policy is kind of clear. We don't want anyone, any manager, any advisor, any parent being inside the player tunnel. So they addressed that, Borussia Dortmund, without directly addressing Mark Bellingham and the incident. So also Sebastian Kehl, he talked to the media afterwards. He didn't directly address it because they are in a bit of a difficult situation there. They dealt with Mark Bellingham for 3 years when Jude Bellingham played for Borussia Dortmund, right? Between 2020 and 2023. So now they deal with him again, and they know that he can get a little bit heated when things don't go as expected. And Joe Bellingham, he made his first appearance in the Bundesliga. So, I mean, it's not perfect for Joe Bellingham as well because he's still a young player. First game for Borussia Dortmund in the Bundesliga, and already his dad got involved. So Borussia Dortmund tried to figure that thing out because Joe Bellingham is expected to be a cornerstone of Borussia Dortmund's team this season. So he is expected to be a starter in central midfield. So you don't want the parents being anywhere close to confronting the manager or the sporting director again.
I know we're sort of making a little bit of a joke about this and seeing the light-hearted side, but it is a concern, isn't it? It's a concern that goes back to the European Championships last summer when it came to Jude Bellingham and the fact that he wasn't willing to do interviews, and we were of the impression that actually his parents were directly guiding him away from doing those interviews, which upset some of the other senior England players because he was seen as part of the leadership group. Do his parents not just need to rein it back a bit?
Is there sort of suggestion that they've been banned from the training ground, Konstantin?
No, they are not. I mean, but still, they are kind of like perimeters, right? I mean, you can be there, but you can't like stand on the training pitch or something like that. And I mean, Borussia Dortmund, they know that Mark Bellingham in particular, I mean, Denise Bellingham, so Jude's and Job's mom was also there, but Mark Bellingham, former non-league striker, former police officer, he's very much involved in the careers of both of his sons, and he talks to higher ups, and that, of course, can happen and can take place, but the circumstances should be right, and not immediately after a rather disappointing game, then confronting the sport director and getting into a heated argument with the sporting director, where also a lot of people can hear it, including players. And then you are undermining the authority of the sport director, Sebastian Kehl, who's already under a huge pressure right now because of his transfer activities or the lack thereof. So that's why Borussia Dortmund are not happy with what has happened. And you are completely right. I mean, the Bellinghams, they do things their own way. And Jude Bellingham is one of the best players in Europe. So, I mean, they do something correctly, of course, but still, they do things their own way. And Borussia Dortmund probably knew that they have to deal with them and their way of doing things. But Saturday was a first, to be honest.
Okay, let's talk about the Bundesliga overall and the idea that I wonder whether the predictability of the Bundesliga, it always ended up with Bayern Munich, has led to a situation where the Bundesliga has sort of tried to lean on YouTubers or decided to go down the route of giving rights to YouTubers and other niche outlets for its overseas coverage this season to try and drum up a little bit of interest internationally. What's the feeling and thought behind this?
Yeah, I mean, they engaged in a deal with Mark Goldbridge and the overlap, but also BBC. So it's a bit of a mixed bag there. It's not just YouTubers, but it's also the BBC who are now broadcasting the Bundesliga Friday night games. There's one game per week on Friday nights. BBC will also broadcast it on their YouTube channel. So it's free access. Everyone can watch it in the UK, right? It's, of course, a geo-block for everyone else. But the Bundesliga, they don't really get money for that. But they want to, as you said, trump up interest, draw interest for the Bundesliga, at least for one game per week. And I think it's a long-term strategy. You draw interest, the interest rises, and then you can sell television rights to actually television companies who pay a lot of money. I think the Bundesliga believes that, especially with Harry Kane playing for Bayern Munich, and Bayern Munich will play a lot of these Friday night games. There is something to be done about drawing interest in the UK. But of course, it's more of a long-term strategy. I mean, right now, financially, they don't make anything from that, of course.
Well, they don't make anything from overseas sales, do they? The Premier League make £1.46 billion. La Liga used to make 850 million. Serie A, 350 million for their overseas sales. The Bundesliga, 227.4 million pounds. As you say, it's part of a long-term strategy. Putting Bayern on Friday nights certainly will help. They won 6-0 at the weekend. Leverkusen didn't have the greatest start, though.
No, not really. I mean, they lost 2-1 against Hoffenheim at home, actually. Yeah, so it was really disappointing. And Erik ten Hag, the new Bayer Leverkusen manager, said, I mean, it was somewhat expected that they might lose a few games early on. I don't know if you should say that publicly, but I know what he means, because the squad had to be rebuilt, and they signed a number of new players, but also had to let a number of players go, including Florian Wirtz, Granit Xhaka, who joined Sunderland, Jeremy Frimpong joined Liverpool, and so on and so on. And the rebuild is not done yet. They are still chasing players, and they might actually sell Piero Hincapié, the Ecuadorian defender, to Arsenal. So Arsenal have ramped up their interest in Hincapié, and so that's the latest transfer story. So Bayer Leverkusen, they might be flushed with money, but rebuilding a squad is sometimes the harder thing to do, and Erik ten Hag knows it. Which, of course, when it comes to the title race in the Bundesliga, with Bayer Leverkusen probably not being competitive against Bayern Munich, it's up to Borussia Dortmund to be competitive, but they also dropped 2 points on Saturday, as we just discussed. So it looks all around like Bayern Munich will run away with the title race once again.
Konstantin, thank you very much. Yes, Harry Kane getting a hat-trick again for Bayern Munich on Friday night. Michael Olise scoring twice, and a first goal in the Bundesliga for Luis Diaz, who's been acquired for Bayern as well this season. You're listening to White and Jordan on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's real deals at selcobw.com. When we come back in the next few minutes, we'll be looking ahead to tonight's Monday night football between Newcastle and Liverpool.
spine-tingling occasion with a fixture that evokes memories.
Collymore closing in! Liverpool lead in stoppage time!
Long from Enrique, taken by Suarez. Oh, what about that? What about that?
There's something happening at this football club. Something happening at St James's Park.
But the picture changes and unfolds, twists and turns.
When promises are broken and trust is lost, the relationship cannot continue.
Let's be honest, lads, they have missed Isak, haven't they? Like you wouldn't believe.
Rather focus on those players we have here. I'm sure everything off the pitch will take care of itself.
Now Gakpo into the penalty area, takes aim! What a finish!
Also a team that can make it a fight, if you want to call it like this. They have players for this, but they also have players that are so comfortable in the ball.
Vance goes round him, fires it in! 3-0 Newcastle!
First home game, I think, is always going to be electric, under lights, evening game. Concentrate on what we need to do and not get too emotional, but certainly use the energy from the crowd. That's going to be vital for us.
St James's Park explodes with emotion!
What a game we've got in store for you tonight, live on talkSPORT. 8 o'clock kickoff. It is the big one. Newcastle United against Liverpool. Troy Deeney will be there alongside me and Adrian Durham from 7 o'clock tonight. Looking forward to that. Arsenal 2 wins from 2. Chelsea impressive on Friday. Tottenham might be poised to spring a surprise under Thomas Frank. Martin, where do Liverpool sit as title favourites in this early part of the season?
Well, I mean, they've spent some money this season. They're entitled to, because last year they didn't. The manager has done a fantastic job, and he'll be wanting to continue that. But Arsenal, you've just mentioned, Arsenal are in for some other players. Arsenal must have signed about 65 players this season, so they've made their intentions clear. But it's a great one. Liverpool and Arsenal joint favourites for the title, and quite rightly so.
Yeah, I'm sure that Arne Slot would love to have Alexander Isak in his team. Certainly Eddie Howe would love to have Alexander Isak in his team, but he's not going to be in either tonight. But Arne Slot says even without Alexander Isak, I'm happy with my squad.
I'm very, very happy about the squad we are having. So I've always said maybe having 2 per position is ideal, but I prefer less than more, because you have to disappoint so many players every single time for them not even being in the squad, let alone not playing. So yeah, really happy with the squad. But as always, if we think we can improve in a certain position and there's a player available that can really make us better, which you could see with Giovanni Leoni, it's then this club has always shown that they bring these players in.
He's left the door open there, hasn't he?
Well, they will. Liverpool, I think the door is still very much ajar as far as they're concerned. Obviously, we had a dramatic night last Tuesday when Alexander Isak, without any knowledge of the hierarchy at Newcastle, released that bombshell statement claiming broken promises and lost trust. It's pretty clear that he is trying to force his way out the door. Newcastle responded with what I thought actually was a really well-worded statement, because they made their stance clear without actually inflaming the situation. And again, they left the door open by saying that if certain criteria was met, then maybe they would be open to allowing Isak to move on. The vibe coming out of St James's Park towards the end of last week was that Eddie Howe remained vehement that he doesn't want to sell. He realises the importance of Isak to the squad. And I think those on the ground up in the northeast are adamant that he won't be sold. Ultimately, though, it's not going to be Eddie Howe's decision. It's going to be the decision of the Public Investment Fund over in Saudi Arabia. And if Liverpool do come back in, as I think they might, with an improved offer, a British record offer, then I think we're going to see just how ambitious the Saudis really are.
I've always been of the opinion, Martin, that this game tonight is a line in the sand. There was nothing that was ever going to be done before it was played. And it's very difficult, as much as Eddie Howe is very good politically at keeping the situation under control. The truth is, if you've got a player that doesn't want to be at your football club, it's very, very difficult to reintegrate that player and get him playing at a level that he was in the previous season when his stock was so high.
Well, first of all, you are really upset about a player that you feel that you've helped. And Isak is a good player, there's no question about it. But under Eddie Howe, he has definitely improved. And so you feel you feel as if there's a bit of a bond there with you, a player that you've done, and that's been really upsetting because you're finding out that this player wants to leave the football club, but it's the manner in which he's done it. If he'd come in and had a conversation with you, and he's talking about broken promises, and we've dealt with this in the programme before, unless they're written down, I'm not so sure about that. Players will always feel as if that they have a promise made to someone or other. You know, it might have been to the ticket collector or something like this here, but overall, Eddie Howe will be upset about the manner in which it's been done. And that's the point. Okay, so fine, right? You've got your head around that there, and the player. The rehabilitation of the player, I don't think, myself, if this deal does not go through, will not be a major problem. I genuinely, yes, there'll be a lot of Newcastle fans upset, and quite rightly so, in the manner in which he's dealt with this year. But I've always felt this, that players like that there will come back, particularly Isaac, the minute he scores the first goal up at St James's, that people will be saying, gosh, and it'll be forgotten about, believe it, because those players come away and said, the whole thing was lost in translation. I didn't really want to leave. I didn't want to do all of these things.
To do that when you've put a statement out on Instagram where you've typed it and said...
I don't care. I don't care. Absolutely. So if that happens, my other point was this here. If for instance, through the agent, that Liverpool have come in and said, we will see this through to the end, they should do. If Liverpool have said the most we are going to go to is £110 million and that's it, and we've reached our ceiling, fine. But this is where Liverpool should see it through. If there was no agreement and Liverpool had said to the agent and the player, listen, we will see this through to the bitter end, regardless of what it costs, they should see it through.
You think it'll go?
Do I think it'll go? It's a good point. There may come to a compromise. Let's say they were asking 150, and I'm making these things 150 million. They might come to 125 million pounds, and he might go.
I think Liverpool a bit again. I never felt like you make it an offer, which I think was a British record when you include the add-ons. You get it rejected, and then you don't try again. I think there will be another bid, but I agree with you, it won't come until after this game.
It certainly won't come till after this game. They're going to put that to one side for tonight, and we'll concentrate on the football on the pitch. Who's going to come out on top? You would suggest history is with Liverpool. Newcastle have gone 17 Premier League games without beating Liverpool, dating back to December 2015 when Steve McClaren was in charge. It'll be fascinating to see what happens tonight because, of course, they've still got that Carabao Cup final victory in the back of their mind. Martin, great to spend the bank holiday with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you very much.
And Crookie, nice to see you once more.
See you Friday.
See you Friday. Looking forward to that. We're going to Newcastle. I'm going to Newcastle now. We're back together on Friday, and we've got Max Rushton and Andy Jacobs about to walk into the studio next. Don't go anywhere.